6:32 tonight. We're probably having more people drifting in and as the meeting gets going. My name is Carrie Bristow and I'm the chair from representing the town of Woodstock. Welcome to you all for coming out tonight on a beautiful evening. Are there any amendments to the agenda from the board? Okay, hearing none, then the very first item we'll pick up with is public comment. I would just like to clarify how we do public comment for school boards. We generally say we'd like you to keep your comments to 2 minutes. We can allow a little longitude on that if you're just wrapping up. Just so it's clear, when the public gives comment, generally speaking, we do not say anything afterwards other than thanking you. And often I or another person will reach out back to you to clarify what you were saying and to hear more. There is an attendance pad going around, so if you could just make sure you put your name and town, just because the clerk will put that into the minutes. Thank you very much. When you are asking for public comment, we ask that you say your name and the town of residence. If you're on Zoom, you would digitally raise your hand or somehow signal to us that you would like to speak. If there are a lot of folks in the room and Zoom, I will try to go back and forth a little bit, 2 and maybe 2. If you have already spoken on a topic, we won't recognize you on the same topic until all folks have had a chance to make their comment on the topic. We ask for order and forms observed by all people in the room and on the Zoom. Neither our board nor we ask that the public do not delay or interrupt the proceedings or the peace of the meeting, or interrupt or disturb any member while speaking. Members of the board and members of the public are prohibited from making personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks. And members of the body and members of the public shall obey the orders of the chair or other presiding member. And we do ask that you address the chair or to the whole board, but not to an individual member of the school board. So having said that, I'd like to invite anyone who would like to make a public comment to raise their hand. Yes.
Thank you. My name is John Ralston, and I'm a parent of the first grader at Killington Elementary School. I've also spent the majority of my career as a law school professor. I'd like to thank the board for dedicating a portion of today's meeting to the concerns that I raised at the end of the last meeting regarding our district's use of one-to-one devices in our schools, especially our elementary schools. This is a concern that is being echoed by thousands of parents across the country, as well as in our state. I think it's a generational issue and one that demands this board's attention. I'm thankful for Representative Kimball for being here today, as there are currently 2 bills in front of the legislature that deal with this issue, H650 as well as H830, as you know. I look forward later today to hearing from our elementary school principals about their current use of one-to-one devices and other digital products in our schools. But what I'm particularly interested in is why these devices are being used in our schools and how they are a necessary part of our children's education. When these products are used in the classroom, they necessarily replace other things. Every minute our students use these products and every dollar we spend on them is 1 less minute and 1 less dollar that we're using on proven educational resources and instruction, such as handwriting, reading from physical texts, physical experimentation, peer interaction, and teacher-led instruction. In the research that I have done, both as a parent and as an educator, I have yet to see any evidence whatsoever to justify the using of one-to-one devices to replace traditional methods of instruction. While I've heard about the promise or potential of using these devices in schools, I have yet to see any proof of their value. The only proof that I have seen is of their harms. We do not need these devices in our schools. This is a choice that we're making to put them in our schools. My hope is that this board and administration chooses to move away from the unproven perspective that one-to-one devices are inherently good for education, and instead conduct a thorough examination of their utility in the classroom, including a review of everything that our children lose when moving their focus away from the real world onto a screen.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Can I just finish my point with the chair allowing me to finish what I was saying? Thank you very much. So I implore this board to remove these devices from our elementary schools and dramatically overhaul their use in our middle and high school. I applaud this board and our administration for being leaders on many issues that our district is facing, including implementing a bell-to-bell smartphone ban, the advocacy you've done to keep our district together in these uncertain times, and your tireless efforts to build a quality home for our middle and high school students. I hope this board and administration is a leader on this issue as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody online? Anybody else? Yes.
And just to follow up, with John's point, my name is Blake Fabricant. I live in Woodstock. I have two young daughters who go to the Woodstock Elementary School. I'm also the Dean of Students at the Sharon Academy, where I drove our school to become the first phone-free school more than 2 years ago. Phones are just the beginning, unfortunately. We need to take a hard look at screens as a whole and what companies are rolling out the initiatives. Who stands to profit? And if the product is free, then who is the product? There's plenty of studies and data showing that screens are damaging to students' learning and social emotional well-being, including addiction, social isolation, lack of attention, lower test scores, and compromised focus. So we always need to ask the question of whether the task can be completed without using a device. They cannot be the default. When you draft your policies, think about your collective curriculums. Please consider the objective of why you are doing what you're doing, and can that objective be achieved without the use of screens? Questions that you should consider when policies are informed. How are you implementing the technology thoughtfully and intentionally? What purpose is it serving, and does the platform fit the task? When those that say that screens aren't going anywhere and we have to learn to use them responsibly, I tend to retort that we have a choice to use them. We are not mandated to use them, therefore it is a choice. I went screen-free in my film and philosophy class after reading Jared Cooney-Horvath's Digital Delusion. I had students use blue books to write their essays and I graded them by hand. I could tell you that the class was successful, but more impactfully, here are some excerpts from my students. I think that a class without screens creates an environment that is much more natural and comfortable. There's still complexity and tension in the structure, but I noticed significant connection between students and engagement in the topics that were discussed. I got to know a lot of people that I wasn't as familiar with on a deeper level by listening how they interpret various abstract concepts. I'm also someone who listens more than I speak in class, but I think I was able to actually think through my own ideas without the pressure of doing something online moving over them. Overall, I noticed that students were excited to have discussions and had consistent energy throughout the quarter, regardless of what the focus was. I implore you to think about screen use intentionally. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online? All right, well, thank you very much. We'll now proceed into the reports, starting with the superintendent.
And I'll be very brief. We have lots of presentations. I just wanted to note that we did complete the administrative surveys, which is our opportunity for me to give meaningful feedback to all our administrators. We had over 90 members of the MDSU team participate in that, and all principals and directors have been evaluated as they have been for the years. Wanted also to talk about that I've had 3 opportunities in the last month to speak before the House and Senate. I was able to speak around our voluntary merger, which was quite a walk down memory lane for 27 3-hour meetings to get to that point. When we talk about mergers, people forget how much work and effort it took and what a powerful outcome we had as a result. I also spoke to House Ways and Means last week as a Senate ed around our BOCES program. And lastly, we have some members of our central office team who are moving on to new adventures. So myself, Carrie, Jim, Raph, and Raina have been looking at our central office team. How do we meet our needs? How do we move in this next transition? I'm not feeling good about some of the losses we have, but I am feeling good about where we are now. So that we are right-sized and we're sharing resources in a way that makes a lot of sense. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Sherry? Comments from the board? All right, thank you. The director reports are largely in our packets, but I know there's at least one director that would like to make a comment.
Yes, hi everyone, my name is Raphael Adamek, I'm the Director of Technology and Innovation. And Jen Settle and I just wanted to share some information with you because past couple months we've heard some questions around how our students performed academically. So in March, the AOE released the BTCAP scores from the 2025 administration and broke it down by school and district level. And so this table that Sherry has up there is this data, and just wanted to highlight a couple pieces for you. So one of the things you'll notice, we had two groups of students who scored the highest in the state of Vermont. Our third grade ELA students and our ninth grade math students. And we had 11 of our 17 students, or 11 of our 17 groups were in the top 5 in the state. I think you would be hard pressed to find another district that is performing as well. Every single one of our cohorts taking the test was well above the state average. And you'll notice on the far right-hand column, the range of what you'll see in some different districts in Vermont. These ranges can be quite large. And so I wanted to share this as a celebration of some of the work that our students have done. This is one measure. We have to be careful we want to use many measures as we're assessing our students' academic performance. But in this measure from last year, you can see we're one of the top performing districts in the state. Add anything?
On to me?
Yes.
Great. So yes, the next slide. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Jennifer Settle. I'm Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. 3 years ago, after identifying our district's achievement goals in literacy and math, we had to ask ourselves, how will we know when we've met those goals? We knew that no single measure or assessment would suffice. So after attending a few workshops with Thomas Gusky on this topic, we realized it was important for us to ask all district community groups which assessments they valued the most. After meeting with groups of parents, board members, students, teachers, and administrators, we identified multiple measurement tools they valued. From this work, we created a document we call our District Assessment Triangulation. This allows us to track our progress toward our goals with at least 3 measurements that our community values. On the screen, you'll see the left-hand column captures our valued assessments. We have local assessments, class grades, and state-level assessments considered in determining our district's success. Along the top, you'll see the colors bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. The platinum column is what we're aiming for, and the other columns allow us to find ways to celebrate gains on our goals along the way. The bright green lines, the highlights you see on the slide, show our district progress as of the 24-25 school year. You can see we're making progress in obtaining what we call a silver medal. As Raph shared, we have much to celebrate in our VTCAP scores. However, we are staying focused on evaluating multiple measures of achievement to one day reach the platinum level on our triangulation. Thank you.
The last piece I just want to mention is we have received so students have finished their 2026 BTCAP administration in the last week. And due to some quirks in the way that the AOE changed the testing, there were some more reports of anomalies this year than there have been in the past. So our scores may look different next year. And it's just something to be aware of as we move forward.
Go ahead, Seth.
I should, thanks for the report. 2 questions. One, I guess context, like what's the year-over-year change? Like how, you know what I mean? Like how are we doing? And then 2, like I'm glad that we're doing well compared to the rest of the state. but it seems like a low bar in some cases, like if math is, you know, if our math is in the 50s, and you know what I mean, like, so I just don't want to like celebrate too much at a low bar. But could you give me context around that?
Yeah,
I guess I only have one question. The other thing is
in the 3 years that we've been administering the VT cap assessments, we've seen growth over those 3 years in most of our areas. So it's been a pretty steady progression of improvement over the years. In some cases, the growth has been really dramatic, where we've seen improvement.
Are there any places we went backward?
There are places where it's level, and the growth is not particularly strong at the moment. I don't know off the top of my head there's any that have gone backwards per se. And I think the previous version of our strategic plan had that same question around how do we assess ourselves compared to other schools around the country and around the world. And then there was some work done at that time to kind of look at some different options. They proved to be challenging for a couple of reasons. But yeah, that is a concern as well. How do we set a high bar for ourselves that we can make sure that our students are meeting that standard?
Corinne? Or no, it's Anne.
Anne.
Anne, sorry, Anne.
Yeah, I'm also just trying to understand how this changes over time. And partially I'm looking at some cohorts, like, is it just sort of a small numbers issue or something like that? Just, I'm struck by the fact that like in math, 8th grade, they're sixth, they're ranked sixth, which is pretty good. In 9th grade, they're ranked first. And then when you look at English language arts, it's 10th and then third. So it's like, I don't think it's that kids are getting such, I mean, I don't doubt that our 9th grade teachers are amazing, but I don't think they're like catching up that much in 9th grade, I would imagine. It has something to do with just like the group of kids in each of those classes is part of it. So how do you measure, how do you think about how that affects things?
I'm happy to answer that. Or Jen, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I can't see everyone. So, yeah, cohorts can absolutely influence this. And that's why we have to look at the bigger picture over time. And in our triangulation, we tend to look at district-wide our performance as opposed to individual cohorts. But as we track things over time, there are smaller groups that have bigger swings in data year to year. So there is some variability as well.
It's helpful. Thank you.
Any other board members? Well, thank you, Rab. I just was going to say that I know that when coming out of the pandemic, we did receive funds from the government through ESSER, and I know that a deliberate choice was made at that time to push hard on starting with ELA and then secondly into math. And I think it's shown us that in several years, it's really making a difference. So, you know, bravo and kudos to those who teach those curriculum and have done the fine work of seeing where they needed to change their practice, which is hard, and absorb and move into, you know, new ways of teaching. So thank you. Thank you, Jen.
If I can also say, I don't think the science cognitive scores are at all a good reflection of how great our science teachers are, and more importantly, the students' science proficiency. As someone who's taken it, this is not me being like, oh, this test is dumb. But I do think the problem with science is it doesn't test fundamental skills in the same way that ELA and math does. So a lot of it is like chemosynthesis. And I've taken a lot of science classes, and the only time we've ever talked about chemosynthesis is in AP Bio. And I think, you know, we can't say that people are proficient when they've taken AP Bio and they had one lesson on chemosynthesis and they remember that for the Cognia test.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Lila. We, in fact, our science chair reviewed the assessment and took it and really felt that it's more of a comprehension assessment
For sure.
than it is around concepts in science that were mastered. So thank you for bringing that up.
It's not, it's absolutely about, it's more of a comprehension thing, and it's a total marathon because all of the questions are written very similarly. Like a student has a hypothesis and that's the start to every single question, and then it's just paragraphs and pages and pages and pages of words. I wouldn't call it a good metric of scientific achievement at all.
Thank you.
And the other thing that concerns me, having read the report from REF, is that the public should know that the solution to the glitch was, well, you can either do the whole test over again or submit it as was, and they had the problem. So, I mean, that to me, that needs to get out there too. Since I've been saying a lot of things in the public, I might write my own op-ed to one of these outlets, because that's really frustrating. To make kids sit down and take a whole test over again, that's ridiculous.
Well, and a number of our principals share, their students really invested in there, they were opted out of the testing, it really was. It's unfair, and it was based on an agency of education decision, it was not a glitch in the software.
I mean, that's kind of baffling to me to be like, well, your only other options are to retake the whole test or just to take the loss. Like, that doesn't seem like a super amazingly difficult technical issue to fix. Being like, oh, we have this test written now, we'll just administer this section. That's kind of wild.
Yes, it is.
These results, they're not, you don't get your individual results. I assume this is just.
Students.
We received a paper write-up, and it doesn't say like what questions you got right, but it does have several bars, and it's like you are in this
Like
quadrant.
good at geography, or like you're this good at something
So it'll
else.
be like 75th percentile, 22nd percentile, whatever it is.
Well, let's hope there's some more discussion at the state level on how to handle this, because it could really skew people's views of your own schools. If scores go down dramatically because of that glitch. So, anyway, thank you very much. Is there any other director that would like to speak? All right, then we would invite our two legislative folks here tonight.
Oh, our student reports.
Oh, sorry. No, they're next.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm just going in the order. You guys are next after that.
We were excited to hear ourselves as well.
We also like hearing ourselves talk. I like that we got a scarier now.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself as well. I've been at the last couple of meetings on Zoom, so you may not be able to see me or hear me, but I'm Mike Hoyt. I'm from West Hartford. I represent Windsor 4, which is Barnard, Bridgewater, Pomfret, Queechee, and West Hartford. I was appointed in December to the Ports Heather Superman. I'm on the Environment Committee. We sit right next to Charlie on the House floor, which is great. But I will turn it over to him since his committee has got all the action on some of the education stuff.
So thank you, Senator Clarkson sends her apologies, she couldn't make it today. So my name is Charlie Kimball, I represent Woodstock, Reading, and Plymouth, and I'm on the House Ways and Means Committee. So a couple of updates. It was nice to see folks from our hometown this week in the Ways and Means. So there are, first it's important, I know you have a brief amount of time. It's important to know where we are in the legislative session. This is, I think we're banking on getting out before Memorial Day, which if you asked us that a few weeks ago, you said no way. So it's down to doing calendar math and figuring out what has time in order to make it. I don't think 6:40 or 8:50 or 8:30 have time this session. They haven't been taken up and considered. So we're looking at what bills are live. The yield bill has come out of the Senate last week on Friday, and it has made a totally different proposal from what we said. Is using one-time funds to reduce the amount to be raised by property taxes in the amount of $100 million. And that reduces the overall average tax increase for property taxes to 3.8%. Remember, the House had suggested that be divided over 2 years, and the Senate is saying 1 year for that, and then additional $4 million to go into renter credits. So to really look at those that are paying more than a high percentage of their income in rent to use that money that way. So that's one point of contention. We're not in alignment with that. The second thing that the Senate did is they attached S-220, which is a bill regarding the excess spending threshold, proposing to lower it from 118% down to 112%. But that bill also contains the removal of the inclusion of the debt service from the per pupil calculation for the purposes of calculating excess spending. So there's one part of it that we like and one part of it that we don't. I imagine so we are at significant differences of opinion. I don't know if we're going to be able to resolve it between legislation that we pass or amend and try to send back, so it'll go to a conference committee. And these are the times of conference committees. So there will be 3 senators appointed and 3 House members appointed to meet and try to resolve the differences between the different bills. And that's where a lot of negotiation will take place as to what's acceptable and what's not. So those are the major bills. The Education Transformation Bill is H 955, and that is currently in the Senate. They are trying to revise. Last year they did a strike all amendment, which means they basically jettison everything that we did and start all over. Now they're trying to just amend different parts of it. Nothing significant yet, but they haven't gotten to the school construction piece. What we passed over to the House was, or to the Senate, was a way to really incent school construction with the $50 million coming from the unused bonding capacity of the state, and then also a categorical grants to pay up to 95% of school construction projects. So it's significant. So there's a question of where's the money going to come from, and I think we've got resolution to that, but that's far from where the Senate is. So that's something else that has to be resolved in a conference committee. We just don't have time to go back and forth with that particular issue. So it's a great thing for Mountain Views, except that it's not immediate either. It relies on the state board, actually the Agency of Education, to develop prioritization as to what school projects get green lighted, and then which ones receive that funding. And then based on criteria, and could be the health and safety of the student, could be consolidation of school facilities. It could be, modernization of educational settings. So that has not been set yet. And there's a lot of pushback as to don't provide funds for school projects now, wait to see what gets prioritized based on this scoring method. So that's all kind of what we're dealing with right now in the legislature, is the kind of differences of opinion. There's a lot of other bills, of course. We're up to over 1,000 bills in the House, and I think 300 or 400 in the Senate. So there'll be about 100 that get passed.
Seth?
Hello, hi, Representative Point. Yes. Representative Kimmel, thank you for your report. The conference committee, who do you anticipate being a member, or who the leadership appoints the members, and how many conference committees do you anticipate?
I think related to education, there's the miscellaneous tax bill, there's the yield bill, and there's also the education transformation bill. And so it depends on the ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee. So I'll probably get on the miscellaneous tax bill, which is always fun. What's that? Yeah, you have to be a tax nerd to really enjoy that one. And then probably the yield bill. So it's uncertain. It's up to the speaker to appoint people. Yeah. So one thing's been clear is we've taken a lot of testimony, not only from Mountain Views, but from other school districts that said that the lowering of the education spending threshold, the excess spending threshold, would be devastating, as proposed to go from 118 to 112. So there's room for negotiation there, and my feeling is that there will be great push to lower it from the 118. It has 3 off ramps, which are a little odd anyway, and trying to comply with those off ramps. Meaning if you keep your per pupil spending the same, you keep your district spending the same, or you have some extraordinary circumstances that the Secretary of Education and a cohort of business managers and superintendents can say, yeah, that was beyond your control, so we're gonna get you out of the penalty phase. So
my follow-up, please, is why do you anticipate, what would be the scenario in which there would not be support? We know that you sponsored a bill around decoupling.
Yeah.
We know that it's in the Senate Bill 220.
Yes.
So presumably there's interest from both sides. Why do you think that would not make it into the final solution?
I think it will around construction financing. So I think that'll make it, and it's in S220, and there's a lot of consideration for that. But then, because if you think about it, that excess spending threshold is to try to constrain spending.
It's just to control
Right, and then if you're lowering from 118 to 112, that's a real tightening of the screw. The Senate thought that it would be a way to provide a bridge from where we are now on how we pay for education to the foundation fund.
Both at the same time.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're gonna have a lot of discussions about that.
Yeah, and on the excess spending threshold, Charlie's committee gets some of the numbers, and it's one where like not only further hurts Mountain View, but it throws, because I also represent part of Hartford. It throws Hartford into the penalty, I believe. And I've talked to the senators from Windsor County and other representatives. It seems like Windsor County is affected almost across the board if we lower this. So I'm hoping we do not have to. I'm hoping something comes out of it that doesn't hurt us any further.
Yeah, that's my intent as well. Yeah.
I have a couple questions from online, Corinne and then Matt.
Hi, representatives. Good to see you. Just a quick question on can you clarify whether it's the SBE or the AOE that is charged with coming up with the
Prioritization?
Yes.
Yes, it is the Agency of Education, so it's there's this State Aid for School Construction Advisory Board that's supposed to provide input to the Agency of Education to come up with a prioritization. The Agency of Education also would create a school construction management division. And they have identified what those positions are, but they have not funded them. It wasn't, by the time the study came out, they had already presented their budget, so it wasn't included in their budget request. So anyway, there's some movement, some considerations. Can that be accelerated to provide the Agency of Education with the help it needs around school construction issues? We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And I do want to say that the Agency of Education continues to be consistent in saying they really don't like CSAs. They want 4 school district mergers. Yeah, they're consistent.
You can get them. Matt?
Consistency, yeah.
Thanks for coming tonight, Charlie. I remember last month that one of these bills would delay the implementation of the foundation formula by 2 years. And
Yeah.
That's going to be a very, very big change, and without having figured out consolidation or like ways to save that amount of money, it would be very drastic for our district. So is that still the case, that it's delayed 2 years? Is it in one of these bills that have a chance of passing?
That's in H 955 that the Senate is dealing with now. Yes. So it actually pushes it out to 2030, I believe. So it is a longer delay. There are many that want to see it move quicker, so they can see the impacts happen quicker. But that will be negotiated in conference committee as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Logan.
I could have already been answered, I'm not sure, but I do remember that in our bond there was a little caveat about we needed a certain amount of money from the state. Have we heard anything about like we're gonna receive this money, or is it gonna get blocked in this traffic jam of bills coming in near the end?
Well, yes, it's in the school construction part of H 955, but that is to provide that significant amount of state aid for school construction, but according to the priority list that gets developed. So if that happens, I mean, because the bond was contingent upon 25% coming from state, local, federal. So that would certainly meet it. So there's right now is the base of 50% plus an additional 45% is how it's conceived, and additional bonus points to see how much you could get from the state towards that education.
In your professional opinions, do you think will like be how high up this priority list do you think it would be? You think it would be like come out of the gate #1 Woodstock, or are we gonna be like down the list a little?
I like the enthusiasm.
I would say
#1 in my heart. But, you know, it depends on what the criteria is. I mean, if the criteria comes back and says, a lot of other states use bonus points, they're saying, for consolidating 2 buildings, you get 20 points. For improving the school facility, you get another 25. It's immediate health. So they have a whole scoring. Different states use different methods. So it depends what really comes out. So if the board, if the agency comes out and says, we're going to give the most points to a school project that consolidates 2 existing high schools, how does Mountain Views fit into that? Right. So but
Wait, do a question. Why can't we do that right now?
Because of articles of agreement.
They don't allow us to do it, so they can't set rules that, you know, they may try to put us in a box like that.
So there's lots of things that have to happen. I mean, Hartford has some facilities challenges as well. So in order to figure out what those are, how do you rank that?
Right.
And so overwhelming, some schools were torn down because they found PCBs. So, you know, if we find the chemical, and we don't want to necessarily test the PCBs in the school, it's a whole different subject. But so the health and safety, you know, wins the day, should win the day. Right?
Is there like a ceiling tile quota?
That's also, yeah.
We'll send you some samples.
I'll count.
I think if you had accounting, that would be helpful.
Yeah, there are other schools that are similarly challenged that have sewage that's backing up in some of their facilities as well. So the school is not the only one. So it's an aged population of school facilities, mostly built in the 1950s and 60s. And so that's what Vermont's dealing with.
All right, well, thank you very much, and we'll remain in touch.
Okay.
Thank you. I have to take my leave. My wife broke her wrist and I flew over there.
So I have to leave as well because his wife broke his.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna have Logan go first tonight, because usually Lila gets to do that. So Logan, you can give your report.
Okay, so April just flew by. There was a lot in this month. Today was our first AP exam. We had what, AP Bio, and what was the second one? We had AP Bio and something else. We're a school that pushes APs a huge amount. Almost every student takes one, which is phenomenal. Not many schools in Vermont can say that. I would like to give a shout of praise to all the teachers that have been working so hard to get these APs out. And I would like to wish a good luck to all the students that'll be taking them. And then I would like to take an opportunity to suggest like a little passion project-ish that I've been talking with members of faculty and students with. Our school is there are many students with political science ambitions, and currently we do not offer a large majority of political science oriented classes. We only offer the modern world, AP US history, and AP government and politics, which give us a wide range of skills. But for an AP subject that College Board has invested so much into and has so many classes, we believe that the students will jump at the opportunity to take more political science classes, and it will really benefit to put more social studies classes out there for the students to take and give us an edge in college admissions that want to see more political science majors. And then lastly, sports season has started. We're about midway through it already. It's come and gone quick. And then the Spanish exchange trip just came back from Madrid, and it was, from what I heard, it was a phenomenal experience, overwhelmingly positive, and I hope to see it continue in future years.
All right, thank you, Logan. Lila?
Okay, he stole my thing, but that's okay. Preparation for AP exams has reached a fever pitch. The first exam, AP Bio, happened this morning at 8. Scoring well on AP exams, in addition to bolstering an application, can earn college credit for required classes, depending on a given institution's policy, with the potential to save like thousands in tuition. They will be continuing for the next 2 weeks. An update, I took AP Bio this morning, and I went to Mr. Solitaire and I said, I don't know what mitosis is, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting a 5. And he said, that's ridiculous. That's not what he said, but that's what his face said. Okay. And yesterday, the Yo Theater players finished up Pride and Prejudice for the Sunday matinee. I don't know what time I got home because I'm writing this on Wednesday, but it was probably late. I've spoken pretty extensively about the artistic vision for the show, so instead I'll speak to some of the departing seniors. Quinn Eckler possibly spends the most time on theater I've ever seen anyone spend on theater, always found with a broken prop in hand in some manner fixing it. Leah Gugliotta is Wellesley bound and a great juggler of many activities, not least her dedication to her acting. We're all a little bit confused about how she does it. Sam Hawes is a man of many impressions, making each and every character uniquely his own, and looking to design his own at Clark. Mimi Kondo Olmsted is a truly exuberant force on stage. If you've ever seen her, it's pretty awesome. And she's going to Smith. And Tula Clark is going to college for musical theater. Her commitment and talent has been unwavering for many years in the arts.
Thank you, Lila. Any questions for the students? All right, next item agenda is accepting resignations. Sherry, I'll let you get started with that.
Well, this is really hard, and I was involved in hiring some of these individuals. I can only say a few words about Raphael and all he's done in his years here, coming up from Boston, giving us an opportunity, how he served us in terms of technology, innovation. I will tell you that he is one of my strongest think partners. We bounce things off each other all the time, and I have so appreciated his creative energy as well as his ability to get me on the right path when I'm going down that. And Raph not only does an amazing job in those two positions, but the quality that he takes care of us in the central office, checks in with each and every one of us every day. And I've told him in his new position that he has to have a red phone on his desk, so at 8 o'clock every morning, he can check in to see how we're doing over here. So, so many thanks and appreciation for the years that he served.
Thank you. Elliot.
Yeah, I wanted to also say something about Raf. I've known Raf for the 4 years that I've been on the policy committee. He's the administrative liaison for that, and I wanted to thank him for his leadership, his quiet, calm, philosophical approach to all of our work, especially when it came to some of our more thorny, complex policy. He always had a way of getting us through the weeds and to guide us and encourage us to come up with the best policies that were in the best interest of students, faculty, staff, and community. He'll be missed, but we hope we can retain some of his wisdom as we move on to more of our policy work. Thank you, Raf.
Thank you. I think we'll just do vote once for the 4 resignations. And did you want to speak about the next person on the list?
Yes, I continue to joke that there was one April vacation where the clouds parted and the resume fell on my desk and it was James Fenn. And I can only, I've known many directors of finance. Jim has known some of those as well. And I've just appreciated Jim's ability to problem solve and think things through and line us in terms of our systems and approaches. When he was out on medical leave, we had someone sub in and they jokingly said, "Why am I here?" Because you have all the systems in place to make sure this is working. And I just add some numbers together for you because everything is working so well. So it is time for Jim. We will miss him deeply, but I know again, he's just a short phone call away. And I appreciate all he's done to get us on the right path financially. He will be missed much.
I'd also like to say, having worked with Jim extensively on negotiations committees, as well as many thorny financial puzzles, as my former principal used to say, to figure out, Jim always took it calmly. He did his research. He knew who to call in the state or New Hampshire. And he's one in a million. I was under many, as a teacher, financial directors, some of whom should have probably been sued. And Jim is not on that list. So thank you so much, Jim. Corinne.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to add that I've really appreciated being on the finance committee and working with Jim, and how responsive he's always been to me over email, in meetings as well. But no matter whether my questions were, really important or maybe minor details, he always got back to me, and I really appreciated his support and what I've learned from him.
Thank you. And I think, is it Melissa who would speak about Julia?
Sure. Yes, I'm over here, and I would like to just say that Julia Zalizak has been an advocate for our outdoor and place-based education at the Barnard Preschool. Her commitment to fostering outdoor learning environment has enriched our students' development and strengthened our school's mission. She's taught daily the importance of kindness. It rings true through her classroom, and we're deeply grateful for her passion and the lasting impact that she's made for our early childhood program, and we're gonna miss her. Yeah.
Thank you. And Shana, will you be speaking about Adeline?
I can, yes. So we call her Lainey. And she is our special educator at the Prosper Valley School, and I'm gonna invite Devin to, chime in as well. And we met Lainey 2 years ago, and she was working somewhere else, and when we heard that we had an opening, I emailed her to see if, she would consider coming to our district, and she answered Devin and I in 14 minutes. And we were elated because she's creative. She is innovative. She finds out where each student is, and she connects with them in such a real and compassionate way, and has such diligent effort to create learning plans for those students so that they can all find a path of success in what they're doing.
My quick thing about Lainey is it's important to note that she's not going anywhere else to teach.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving up on her. She's gonna go and take a year and be a sheep farmer. So I'm jealous, and also will continue to poke her in a very appropriate professional way to see when she's ready to give the sheep a break. But she really truly has brought special ed to another level at Prosper Valley, and staff and students alike are gonna miss her a lot.
Thank you. Well, somebody needs to make a motion to accept the resignations with regret, and resignations and retirements with regret.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of accepting the resignations and retirements with regret, please say aye or raise your Zoom hand.
Aye.
Aye. It's like we have enough ayes here. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right, the motion has passed. And now we have the opportunity to approve some new hires. And Sherry will present their names.
So Nicole Leywad, Lorianne Adams will move into our assistant principal position at the high school. Angela Haggett, Gina Roth, some of you may remember as a previous special ed director, will be at Killington, that with speech and special ed. And Adam Bornstein will be our new director of finance, comes with deep experience, moving to this area, has built a house, and actually had some of his children at West previously.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the new hires?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? And anyone abstaining? All right, thank you very much. We now have a presentation from Angela Keller and Jessica Kiefer about a trip to Costa Rica.
Yeah. Do you want us to stand over here?
Sure.
Okay.
If that's where you feel comfortable.
Yeah, and I shared the presentation with Jen Settle. Jen, I don't know if someone can share their screen, if that's easier, or if we should plug in. Do we just have a slideshow to present the information? Is that
Sure.
Okay.
Jen, are you a co-host?
Yeah.
I think I've got this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it? No, it's not. Okay.
It was linked in the board book, but I was unable to open it, either document.
Yeah, it says access denied. I'll share it again.
I actually am having some technical difficulties. I tried to email or text Raf about it. I don't think I'm able to share for issues on my own end, unfortunately.
Okay, Brian, could I use your, could you also, I see you're logged in too? Could I use you?
Send it to me.
Perfect. Okay, just use it. So yeah, we made a slideshow to just make it a little bit easier for the information. And everyone is lucky that I attended the lacrosse meeting rather than starting off with a booming Gloria Estefan calling everybody let's go Congo. I was this close to having that here as we open the slideshow. I think I need that.
Almost there.
Thank you, Brian. So while it's loading, well, I guess we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Jessica Kiefer and
Angela Keller.
And we both are middle school / high school Spanish teachers with Elaine Lively back there. So we're the three musketeers of the Spanish department. And this is a Spanish trip proposal for next year. Oh, thank you. Okay. And so Pura Vida, we are both with middle and high school. Our goal for this proposal is to broaden and diversify the Spanish exchange program. And this trip would be in addition to the Madrid exchange trip that usually goes on at the same time. So the spring break time period. Could you click to the next one? Thank you. And so this would be to our high school students, level 3 or higher, because we feel at that point they have the skills to be able to use the Spanish language in another country. And we're seeking to bridge the gap between classroom and global fluency through a culturally immersive program. It's a little bit distinct from the Madrid trip because the Madrid exchange trip focuses a lot on the culture, the architecture, just experiencing the culture and absorbing it rather than the language being one of the primary goals. And so we have the expectations for students there, which we don't need to go into. So
the idea for the trip is to be 1 week long, and it has different activities or different learning tools during the time that we're going to be in Costa Rica. One is going to be a homestay living, so the students are going to be there with families in Costa Rica. They are going to be kind of welcoming to those homes. They are going to be welcoming to the time that like daily routines, preparing dinner, setting up the table. And the families are trained on how to communicate with the students. So if the students are at a beginner level, they will know how to talk to them maybe with more simple Spanish. If the students are at more intermediate mid level, they will know like what kind of questions to ask, like what was your day? So like how was your day or what did you do today? So the idea is that the homestay is also going to be part of the learning experience. There is also going to be daily intensive Spanish instruction. So this is a Spanish academy. The students are going to be grouped by level of proficiency. So students in the beginner level, maybe beginner mid, beginner high, and they're going to be in small groups, as groups of 4 or 3 or 4 students. So it's really like the idea is to get students in a process of thinking and speaking in the language during that week, and also realizing all the things that they have been learning at school for during the last 3 years or more, if they are in all levels. We are also gonna take part of tons of fun activities, ecotourism. So if we go to the next. So while the students will be in the morning taking intensive Spanish lessons, in the afternoon and in the weekends, the idea that we are going to have some fun and experience Costa Rica and experience the culture. So some water excursions, such as reef tours, surfing lessons, or boogie boarding, depending like the level of how they're feeling about it. There's gonna also be time spent at the beach, swimming, canoeing, kayaking. There is also going to be a visit to a hot spring by the base of the volcano, and some community activities such as dancing lessons and cooking lessons in the town and the neighborhood where we're going to stay. There is also a possibility to visit an indigenous community and a chocolate plantation. Next.
So the areas that we were looking to travel to, it's funny because I actually just went to Costa Rica last summer. So I was very excited to hear that Angela had been researching and pulling from companies that were focused in the same region. This is the Guanacaste region, and the 2 airports are the San Jose and Liberia, which they get a lot of traffic from the United States. It was a pretty seamless trip, direct flights. We did leave from Boston, I believe. So the 3 main regions are the Monteverde Cloud Forest region, Arenal Volcano region that has the La Fortuna, a small town called La Fortuna. It's very quaint, walkable, very pleasant to be in, and one of my favorites. And Nicoya and Samora Beach area, which I did not visit, but 2 of the teachers that are middle school teachers at our school actually went there last summer. And so I have been pulling information from them on what is one of the, what are some of the best activities to do while we're there. And so when this would be a 9-day trip. So just focusing on that region during the last week in April, possibly overlapping at some point during the school week into break. Next slide.
So some of the reasons we think of why it really is giving students an opportunity to be immersed in the language. So as I said, students are not only gonna be taking classes, they're also gonna be with home, so having to communicate in Spanish, and also being able to communicate, like maybe going to local markets, which is gonna be part of the lessons. I think the last day they're gonna be walking around town, like maybe having a more like out in the world kind of experience with their teachers, and being able to communicate with confidence, being able to use the language that they are learning, and also navigate a different cultural context. You want to add something?
No, you can go to the next. Yeah.
Homestay details, I feel like we wanted to kind of provide you with a little bit more information, since the students are not going to be staying in hotels, but are going to be hosted by different families in Costa Rica. So the families are carefully selected by this company. They have been working with the same families for 10 to 15 years, and I was able to confirm that. I called several references, different schools in Indianapolis, in Virginia, New York, Pennsylvania, that have been using this company for years, for up to 16 years, one of them. And they spoke very positively about the families and the students' experience staying with different families. One of the things that they told me is that families and students are trained before going, so that to help the communication and make sure that both the family and the students are having a positive experience. and that our students are also feeling comfortable during the time that they're there.
And not grouped together in the same neighborhood.
They're not in the same neighborhood, so the houses are gonna be about 2 to 15 minutes walk. Some of the homes are able to host more than one student, so maybe 2 or 3 students could be in the same house. But that's also gonna be depending on the students' preferences and the times that we visit.
I love this. We have a really full agenda. Is there a decision that you guys need from us?
Yes.
Yes, just say yes, we're trying to Costa Rica.
You can go to just the last slide. And the cost, the price range is right now between 2,600 and 3,200, which I believe was similar, maybe a little bit higher than the Madrid trip. And that has to do with things like the classes and the airfare, as well as a little bit different.
And also that we're gonna be visiting different parts of the country, like we're gonna be Nicoya, Samara Beach, from there traveling to the volcano and visiting different national parks. That's three different national parks.
Yes.
You can make a motion.
Is this there's a question. We have a Madrid trip. It's a Spanish immersion thing. There's some architecture. Apparently, I've heard a little bit about it. Does the school pay for that? Are students paying for this? This is a fully school, and there's and that's a decision previous boards have made.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why you're showing us the menu for.
Yes, and Elaine, I'm not sure, there wasn't a fundraising that happened prior to Madrid trip, but I don't believe so. I think it's.
It was, we had a 0.7 fundraiser.
Okay, so a small fundraiser, and we could possibly do a fundraiser as well for students that want to go that don't have funds. But yeah, this is not a school.
And do we have money budgeted for this?
The school is not paying for this. The school, this is.
Individual.
Families pay.
Yes.
Oh, that's it, then, yeah.
But it needs to be sent by the school.
I make a motion that we approve this.
Second. Any discussion, questions?
Just for discussion, can I ask a question? So it wasn't clear to me, are we doing this in addition to the Madrid trip, or will this be replacing the Madrid trip?
In addition, yeah, they have two distinct focus areas. The Madrid trip is more architecture, things like arts and touring a city environment, whereas the Costa Rica trip is more ecotourism, biodiversity, sustainable living, and it has a completely different vibe than a European city. And so it would be it actually reminded me of the tropical cousin of Vermont. So it's more of connecting with the landscape and the flora and the fauna in that region, and also the water sports and activities. So there are different activities planned that have students kind of going out, jumping from the doing cliff jumps and things and swimming in the pool. So it's just a different vibe. It's a totally different vibe.
Thank you very much for that answer. Is there enough demand? Will there be enough children interested to still support both trips?
That is a good question. I believe yes. Elaine can also probably speak to that. I believe yes. Because we're offering it to Spanish 3 and above, and there are a significant number of students in those levels. And a lot of students that did not get to go on the Madrid trip that I think would have gone on a Costa Rica trip because it's a different speed.
And also, the Madrid trip is every other year. So, like for example, next year the students are not going to Madrid, so this will be an opportunity for them to go to Costa Rica.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Are we ready to vote? All right, and Seth, you've made the motion. Who seconded it?
Yeah.
Annie, okay. All in favor of approving the trip, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Yo.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Matt, I'm not sure what your hand means. It's been up for all 3 votes.
I'll take it down, but I voted in favor.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. All right, you are approved. Thank you very much. All right, we have our second presentation tonight, from Brian Duff and Emily Hudson for the C3 group.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Duff with C3, which is short for the Center for Community Connections at the middle high school.
And I'm Emily Hudson. Brian and I are co-teachers. Our titles are flexible pathways specialists. So we oversee and manage all of the flexible pathways that are offered within the middle and high school. What are flexible pathways, you may ask? Up on the chart is a list of every flexible pathway that is offered currently at Woodstock Middle and High School. It is broken down, the students we serviced in the fall, the students we serviced in the spring. For those that can't see in the back, in the fall, we worked with 103 students, and in the spring, we've worked with 178 students. The graphs on the left are just a breakdown of different demographics of our the population we work with. First is socioeconomic status. This is just to show, all three graphs just show how the students we are working with are a direct representation of the student population within the body, or within the school. So there's socioeconomic status, gender, and students that are on IEPs or 504s.
All right, for each category of experiential learning, we're going to share two things: exemplary work and a sample of very powerful learning. All right, independent projects. Three fellows got together in the fall and they put together a plan for a finance and investing club. And it took them all the first semester to put it together. Since the start of the second semester, they've been running it each week. And what you see in the middle is a guest speaker that they found, that they invited. We provided the refreshments. That's all we did. And that's exactly what we want to see. Here's some work done by a student who will tell you, she'd be the first to tell you, she does not like to talk. But boy, did she let her art talk for her. And in fact, here's an example of powerful learning expressed by this very student. I've been able to see the growth in my art over this project. At first, it kind of upset me because I started viewing my earlier pieces as bad. But then I realized that if I'm viewing them like that, then there's been growth. My skills are getting better. This is learning about learning. This is metacognition. Community service projects. Here's a service project that blends children's art, the watercolors in the background, with a high school student's digital art. It's a work in progress. This is the beginning of a book co-illustrated by kids and a high school student about mental health. And here's an example of the kind of powerful learning that came out. This actually comes from a student who worked with the UVM Center on Aging. And every couple of weeks, she would go to a nursing home and she'd work with the same group of residents. And she wrote, "One insight I developed is that patience and presence matter more than the activity itself. The fact that no one got bingo for an hour could have made the event feel unsuccessful. But I realized that the real value was in conversations, laughter, and shared experience." It's really only through experiential learning, which is the heart and soul of C3, that you can learn life lessons like this. Teaching assistants. We actually have two of them right in front of us here. Outstanding teaching assistants. Look, I did get your picture, and the only reason I didn't put it here, right, is time. So I want to point out two things on this slide. Number one, One of the most powerful teaching tools, teaching methods, is modeling and narrating what's going through your head. That's exactly what Corinne is doing right here. And you can see the middle school students actually paying attention, right? Here's an example of powerful learning. This comes from a teaching assistant for biology of all things. One insight I gained is how I love to talk to people through whatever stressful thing they're going through. I came to this insight by the amount of de-stressing I was helping out with this week. I've known for a while that I want to do something related to healthcare for my career. And this insight opened up the idea of being a therapist or psychiatrist. Powerful learning about the self, something you didn't know about yourself, coming out through being a TA. Internships. It's coincidental, I think, that both of these internships really work on nonverbal sensitivity. Courses really don't care what words you use with them, but they very much care about how you carry yourself, right? And how you hold your body. And by the same token, young kids, right? Language not fully developed, but they know that you care for them by the way you hold yourself, the way you pay attention to them. Again, where else would you learn that? Where else in school would you learn that kind of lesson? An example of a powerful lesson learned by one of our interns, I need to give you some background. One of the horses used for equine therapy died unexpectedly not that long ago. The staff of Moonrise Therapeutics was grieving. This is a horse that they had worked with for a long time. So the intern wrote, I've not had much exposure to adults dealing with grief, so it was very powerful to walk with them in this process. The staff lost an important part of their lives, so I stepped up to talk to the clients while the staff was struggling to. This is powerful learning. This is the kind of stuff that sticks for life. That's why I'm so proud that we do what we do.
Job embedded learning, oftentimes it's referred to as work-based learning, but all these pathways fall within the Vermont work-based learning continuum. So Brian and I started referencing it as job embedded learning, where students are learning while they're getting paid at a job. 2 students this year are participating as a ski instructor in Killington and a custodian at Wes. Both of them sought out those 2 jobs on their own, applied, interviewed, accepted them, and then we've been working with them to get academic credit. In the photo, you can see the student working at Killington Resort, working with the young Mini Star students, teaching them skiing and snowboarding lesson. And a big reflection this student had in one of his logs was, at the end of the day, a student's father asked me if I wanted to do an unaffiliated private lesson under the table. It was a big mental clash for me, but I ultimately decided no because it went against one of my work's policies, and it was one of the proudest moments all season. So for a 16-year-old student to recognize the ethical dilemma behind going against company policy and still upholding it, even though the opportunity to make additional income for them to navigate that. Then our student that's the custodian at Wes is actually, or so he tells me, is online to work full-time at Wes after graduation. So we also have 2 future-focused courses. I teach an 8th grade Exploring Your Future class. Brian teaches a 10th grade or 10th through 12th grade Future You classes. Exploring Your Future is designed for early awareness and exploration of career fields. So we start really small, students are reflecting on themselves, their interests, their abilities. We go really wide, we start looking 8, 10 years down the road. Where do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to college? What do you want your future career to look like? And then at the end of the course, you bring it back in and we start looking at how do we apply for our first job? Can I get a first job? We prepare for interviews, reading job descriptions, so they can practice all of those future skills they'll need for an immediate outcome for them. Brian does something very similar in Future You, and we spend a lot of time coordinating our curriculums. So for example, I'm teaching them how to apply for their first part-time summer job. Brian's then taking those skills and he's working on actual interviewing skills for careers in the future. And then we also service a lot of students doing online high school courses. We use 2 online platforms, Vermont VTVLC, which is the Vermont Learning Collaborative, and VHS, which is Virtual High School. Through these 2 online platforms, we have students that are taking courses that are currently not offered at the high school, or courses that are not, or courses that scheduling doesn't allow them to take in-person classes. There's a whole wide range of classes being offered, and most of these classes are the result of students having an interest in the class and choosing to take them. We do have a few students that are using the online courses for credit recovery as well. And one thing that's not noted in online courses is there's about 70 students taking online college courses through the dual enrollment process. That's a program we support, but ultimately guidance oversees that. And those students, as long as they pass the class, will get 3 college credits on their transcripts. And finally, one of the biggest uplifts that Brian and I work on is Sophomore Shadow Day. This year we sent about 66 students as far, I always get them backwards, far east as Rutland, as far west as Hanover, and then all the way up to Burlington and everywhere, whatever. All good. And everywhere in between. So students are paired with a professional in a career field of interest to them to get a behind the scenes look of the world of work. We've had kids in multiple different labs in Dartmouth, Woodstock Farmers Market, Kedron Valley Vet. Students went to GE Aerospace Engineering, a recording studio. And overall, it was just a very positive experience. This was a student who went to Dartmouth Hitchcock, said I never realized how important communication is in medicine. And I learned the way that a doctor connects with kids can completely change the experience. This student was at Hillside Design Works. They learned how many steps are involved before any construction work is even hired. They looked at a lot of architectural design and permitting work that needed to be done. And then the final one, this student was in a biochemistry lab at Dartmouth College, and they learned the scientific research isn't just about making huge discoveries, but about patience, collaboration, and building upon small discoveries.
Powerful stuff. So all these things that you just heard about will be useful in an initiative that is in the pipeline for next year. And I just want to end with a quick update on that. And that's concentrations. These are areas of focus that, like craft, or like the pathways that Cherry and Aaron and Jen saw in their visit to Arizona last year. So these are areas of focus that bring coherence and camaraderie to the experience of school. Where we are in this process is that based on research, we came up with an architecture or structure that a concentration would follow. It's represented in this diagram. I'm happy to answer questions at the end, but I won't go into detail now. That research also resulted in a handbook, a draft handbook. What is the definition of a concentration and how would you propose one in the future? Based on focus groups and surveys, primarily of 10th and 11th graders, there were 3 concentrations that rose to the top as most promising to try next year. And those are pictured right here. One focused on STEM, one focused on civic thought and leadership, I'm thinking of you, political science, and creative arts and expression. And the last thing that was done, the most recent thing that was done, is small faculty groups started to coalesce around a manageable number of core competencies for each of these. That's where things stand right now. We're happy to take any questions you have.
Logan?
Yeah. I love the idea of bringing these core structures to school. My one question is, it would be a big incentive for students to do it, but how do we get, especially with something like civic thought and leadership, how do we get the admissions board at colleges that many of us will be attending, because we are a very college-focused school, how will we get them to care and be like, this is something that stands out? Because currently there's, at least us on the student side, we see the importance of having this as sort of like a nice little package deal, but it's hard for us to see how we can make college admissions care, and instead of making our own paths that might be more able to suit our needs and interests going into the professional world.
Logan, two things stand out. One, notice that one of the foundational ingredients of concentration is practical exploration or experiential learning. And this is where C3 would be very much involved in these concentrations, right? Think about the learning that we just highlighted across the different aspects of our portfolio. That is powerful learning that you can tell stories about, right? Whether you're talking about a personal statement or an interview for college admissions. So I think you would get a richness of practical experience through a pathway that would be harder to get if you were just a regular high school student. The other thing I would note is that most high schools don't offer concentrations, academies, majors, call them what you will. So there's something not unique, but distinctive about it. So it's going to catch the eye of admissions officers, and they're probably going to ask about it, right? You make it to the interview stage. So I actually think that college, and I speak from some experience, having been in the college world for a long time. I think a lot of colleges are used to seeing the same darn thing over and over. And anything that stands out, not just because it's shiny, but it's shiny and substantive, right? I think really will set you apart.
And we're talking about how it would refer on your transcript, in terms of, a diploma with distinction. So we've talked about some terminology, just like craft, about how that would be highlighted on your transcript. So even in your initial application prior to an interview, there's gonna be this unique statement on it that defines you and again, separates you out from other candidates.
Well, I mean, this seems like a great idea. I'm just sort of, I mean, I like it a lot. I'm just sort of curious about how we can avoid like pigeonholing students.
Oh, I
Because
know.
I know at the beginning of my high school career, I like wanted to go into robotics.
Yeah.
And now I'm in my junior year and I want to go into like government and writing, and those are two very different things. And I'm just sort of, I guess, concerned that this could somehow develop this way.
It's such a good question. And it's something that we have thought about a lot. Two thoughts related to it. One, these are optional. So a high school student opts into it. So it's not imposed, it's not required. You won't have to choose a major the way you do in college, right? The other thing is, by design, each of these themes is multidisciplinary. And so you could be an artist. I mean, the most natural place for an artist would be this one.
Right.
But these themes are rich enough that someone who is most excited by the arts could just as easily find a home here. This one may be a little bit harder, although I think there is a lot to be said about what the arts can add to science. So I appreciate the worry about pigeonholing. It's one thing that drives me crazy about colleges that ask you to declare a major as an 18-year-old.
Right.
Right. And it's one of the reasons that my first college teaching job was at Bennington College, where there are no majors. Right. So clearly, preaching to the choir on this, right?
Yeah.
So insofar as I've been in charge of this effort, I've been very mindful of not allowing these concentrations to put students in boxes.
Awesome. And I'm sure I was just like wondering like what, I mean, I knew we'd be planning for this, so I was just sort of curious. But let's.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, just one last quick question. So I do love this idea. I think it might give direction to some of the students who are a little bit uncertain at the beginning of their high school career, for sure. Now, the craft program to me almost seems like it is already a concentration. We're just calling it by a different name. And I always felt that people that were involved in the craft program did have some kind of a special BIP status within the graduation process. So would you anticipate that the craft program would be kind of moved over to becoming one of the concentrations, or do you see those being kind of parallel? Or
Yeah, the first thing I would note is the architects of craft, Janice, Kat, were with us every step of the way.
Okay.
I never took a step without consulting them, because that's just the right thing to do. It's the intellectually humble thing to do. They have laid a foundation that we would be foolish to ignore and not fully respect, right? I would say that craft is a concentration par excellence. It is what the other concentrations aspire to be, but are not going to be for years. And you know why? Because craft had a grant behind it, thousands and thousands of dollars behind it. This doesn't, right? And craft had the benefit of a fellowship period where they took time away from campus. This won't have the benefit of that. So, I mean, craft is the example. It is the concentration that the others aspire to be, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
And just as an ending note, we're the center of community connection, so our work only thrives if we have community connection. So if you have any partnerships that would be beneficial for a high school student, please reach out, because we would love to partner high school students with the community more.
Well,
And just out of curiosity, after someone hit the concentration, would there be any sort of like academic imperative to see it through, or could they just at any point be like, I don't want to fulfill this credit requirement?
It's a great question. That is something we need to add to the handbook. So I mentioned that one of the things that we have is a proto handbook, a beginning handbook for these concentrations. And that's not a section we currently have in there. My off the cuff answer is, if I just said 5 minutes ago that we shouldn't pigeonhole and put students in a box, it seems to me it would be hypocritical for me to say that once you're in, and you can't change, right? So I am inclined, but I will check with my partners, I'm inclined to say that you opt in, and you could just as easily opt out. Though we would strongly encourage you to stick with it, right?
Yeah.
Because of all bonuses and all.
Right, so there's certain coursework, especially freshman and sophomore year, just as you would in college, like what are the foundational coursework? And then in junior, senior year, that's the independent studies, that's the apprenticeship, that's the agentic work where you really identify, where do I want to go and take it from here? And all the courses you've taken absolutely lead to graduation. So you still have the same graduation requirements, English, math, science. These are clustered around the theme, but they still can apply for your graduation requirements. So just kind of, how do we recreate environments from the high school that are really around student-directed interests and passion? Having Emily in the middle school, so there is an overview, students, this won't be new to them when they begin thinking coursework in their freshman year, and it's just another option.
Good stuff. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we now have a presentation on the school continuous improvement plan, and I think Jen is leading that discussion.
And please, the presenters, if you've got early mornings tomorrow, so we need to leave that spot.
To class.
Whenever you're ready.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, everyone. So the Vermont Agency of Education requires schools to update continuous improvement plans, otherwise called CIPs, annually to drive student performance, well-being, and school success. These plans must be evidence-based, utilizing data to set prioritized goals that meet the EQS, the education quality standards, as well as federal requirements. Submissions of CIPs is required to access any federal funds. In the board packet, you'll find a document with links to each school's CIP goals. Tonight, we have the opportunity to have each principal present on their CIP goals. But before they begin, I just wanted the board to know that in order to develop a CIP, a principal must create and facilitate a CIP team at their school, conduct a thorough data and needs analysis, collaboratively brainstorm and build goals that meet specific language requirements from the AOE, and send the CIPs to multiple stakeholders for feedback between February and April. I'd like to make a public thank you to the principals for their efforts around this and for staying focused on continuous improvement through their CIPs. Now, I know we have a long board meeting tonight, so I wanted to defer to Sherry and the board. Do we want to hear from every principal about their goals, or do we feel the need to move on at this point? They are all ready and willing.
I think it would need to be quite brief if we're gonna do it.
told 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay, John's the timer.
Okay, so in that case, just as a reminder, this will require a board approval, so there will be a vote to approve at the end of these presentations. So ask your questions if you have them, and we'll start with Melissa Zoerheide for a quick 1 minute presentation.
All right, Barnard Academy has 3 goals in our CIP. The first is achieving 80% of proficiency in our K through 3 assessment for literacy. The second is in math, which is a 70% math proficiency for our 3rd through 6th grade assessments. And our last goal is 90% implementation of a social emotional curriculum for our entire pre-K through 6th grade school. To do this, we're using the evidence-based strategies that are outlined in the plan, and also continuing our funding of our consultants with literacy and math, and also ongoing professional development for our teachers around implementing the instruction.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I am next at Killington. So,
Oh, hang on 1 second. 1 second, Mary. So,
Thank you. Why did you select those percentages, and what happens if you don't reach them?
So they are in alignment with our district's goals that we've outlined previously. For the math and the literacy, for the social emotional, it's looking at something that we think we hope is realistic for us. That was how we selected them. The second question was,
So what
how are
happens
we
if you don't achieve them?
if we don't achieve them? So for example, we did not achieve them from last year. We're aiming high, so for the literacy and math, and we're going to keep working on them. So it's over time.
They're targets with no consequences, basically.
That is how it is laid out. Jen can speak more to the state, because this is a state level.
Yeah, it's not, this is for every school.
Yes, they ask us to give the targets, and then there's not, if we don't achieve them, there's some more that Jen can speak to that at a certain point, but she's raising her hand. But
Yeah, I'd just like to
that category before. Like, there is a bar.
So yeah, and the emphasis here is continuous improvement plans, right? So this is not like we're meeting our goal and ending. We are always going to find something to improve in a human system. And so if we don't meet it in the first year, the important piece is to figure out why it's not working and continue to improve. So this is an ongoing process.
Thank you.
All right, Mary.
all right, Mary's up. Okay, we also have an 80% K through 4 reading goal this year. Last year, our goal was 70%. We anticipate surpassing that this year. So we're going with 80%, even though our district goal is 90%. We'd love to get to 90%. So we're always striving for that. Math, we're bravely striving for 80% proficiency in grades 3 through 6. We think with the implementation of the new curriculum for K through 5 under our belt this year, and concentrating on math fluency for next school year, that we can go big with at least 80%. And if we don't make that goal, we can keep that goal for the next year. Based on our 2026 Qualia student survey, we had a really low percentage of students who felt that students respected each other. So this is prompting our goal for this year. And our PBIS team and our school guidance and myself, we're going to spend some days over the summer to create a real actionable plan to increase that mutual respect among students. And some strategies might include like more student involvement in teaching what respect looks like during our weekly assembly, and ensuring that second step is taught with fidelity across our grades K through 2. So that by the time they get to grade 3, they are models for respect for all students.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amanda Ray, Reading Elementary School. We're focusing on 80% proficiency for reading in students up to 3rd grade, and we're focusing on 100% of students who are not yet proficient will demonstrate at least 1 year's worth of growth. For math, we're focusing on 90% of students who are proficient. By the end of grade 3, and 100% of students who are not yet proficient will demonstrate at least 1 year's growth. And then for our social emotional goal, we're focusing on fostering a strong sense of belonging for all students. And this is going to be through the consistent implementation of at least 1 monthly all-school gathering that's designed to build community and connection. Our goals, some are repeats of last year, but with some new additions. We're focusing on the high expectations for proficiency. And then our 100% progress goal is really thinking about meeting every single child where they are. Let's see, we know that prioritizing proficiency is a critical foundational skill. We're on track this year to meet our 100% of students making at least 1 year's of growth. So that's something we're all really proud of. And in the past, we used the quaglia surveys to focus on our sense of belonging, but we didn't get the best information, most actionable information. So we talked a lot. We talked with community members and staff. As Jen was saying, this is a lot of work, which I've learned this year. And we're focusing on the all school gatherings because they've been really wonderful this year. And yeah, okay.
Devin Working, Prosper Valley. This year in reading and math, we have a very similar goal across the 2 subjects. Last year, our goal was all around standard growth percentile rather than overall proficiency. So trying to get everybody to the, our district is deemed to be the goal of a standard growth percentile of 50 or more. That's in comparison to myself and others in my same cohort in percentile across the nation. Last year, we had an all school by grade level goal to meet a standard growth percentile of 50. This year, we have a very similar goal, but now focusing on our most struggling learners. So we're looking at all the students in the yellow and the red to be able to figure out how we can keep them making those standard growth percentiles of 50 and taking those within each grade level. Required some 4th grade mean, median, and mode math on my side of things. Happy to report, I remember how to do it. And we have some scores that are really great school-wide. When you take down the yellow and red students, we want to be able to focus in on some of those goals on our MTSS throughout the school. So really focusing on tier 1 and tier 2. We have really great tier 3 at our school, special ed and intervention pull-out services, but we really get a lot of bang for our buck in that tier 1 and tier 2. And so we're making some great changes from now till next year at Prosper Valley to be able to really focus in on those 2 tiers of instruction and intervention to be able to help those struggling learners in our school. And safe and healthy schools, the quaglia data this year, we had some great engagement from families more than ever before. Really on the student side of things, we're going to be focusing a lot on some gender inequities in our school. So our quaglia data showed that far fewer males in our school have a positive experience than females. Some of the data showing that, let's see, so to the question of the prompt, if you will, I like school. 32% of 5th grade males said that they like school versus 74% of females. 32% of 5th grade males feel important in their classroom versus 69% of females. And only 28% of 5th grade males can tell their teacher if they are upset versus 72% of females. Pretty stark data that we really need to do something about. So we're really focusing on a couple of things that are yet to come in terms of full actionable plans. We have some time before the next school year, and thinking about some of our systems in our school that start really as basic as morning meeting. What does that look like to create a community within your classroom? And then furthermore, what does it look like on those tier 1 and tier 2 sides of things? I think a lot of our goals have a lot of overlaps, and really thinking about the student experience across the board. What does it look like what does it feel like if you're getting pulled out for intervention, and really thinking about what it looks like to go anywhere in the building during the MTSS block and get what you need. It looks different for everybody. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Maggie Mills, principal at Woodstock Elementary School. You'll hear some similar themes here. We have some proficiency goals for reading. K2 students, 90% proficiency, and 30% 80%, and fourth graders 75%. These were all based on looking at our data from the past year and areas that we're strong versus areas we need to increase. And our real focus this coming year is going to be around reading fluency. We've put a lot of emphasis on our phonics instruction. We've done some really good work with our reading comprehension curriculum. And working with Dr. Julie Brown, what we recognize in our instruction is that there's a lot of variability in our school around what fluency instruction looks like. And fluency is one of the really key times where kids are putting miles on the page to build their reading skills. So we're going to hone in on that with a lot of professional development and coaching with Julie Brown. In math, we are looking at fluency also, but we're looking at FAT fluency to increase our math foundational skills proficiency to 75% across our school. We're going to be digging into work around the FAT fluency for both the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division across the different grades, and using the coaching with Patty Kelly, our math coordinator for that. And finally, for SEL goals, we are continuing to focus on physical contact, which is our highest incidence for our ALMA data. We have seen some really good decreases in physical contact through some whole school approaches, and next year we're going to be honing in on some behavior plans for individual students and how do we build those plans to kind of feed support and increase skill building during unstructured times in their school day. And then lastly, our Quaglia data showed a need for a focus on students feeling like leaders in our school and feeling like they are recognized for the hard work we do. We want students to feel like their work is celebrated and that the work that they're doing at school is important. So we're going to be implementing some different initiatives in our school to really emphasize student leadership and voice with celebrating their work.
Thanks. Aaron Sinkumani, Woodstock Union High School, Middle School. Good evening, everyone. Our department heads got together and facilitated meetings looking at their own data. And there's some patterns in the data that we're interested in disrupting. So I'll start with attendance. Our social emotional health, our school-wide goal around attendance is by June of 2027 to decrease chronic absenteeism by 25% from our 26 data. This is really, really important because attendance is an academic indicator, is not a compliance metric. It's really important that students are to school and school on time, and for the duration, we see great outcomes when that happens. One of the other data points is in mathematics. By June of 27, 30% of students who are below the 40th percentile rank on STAR will have a SGP, a growth percentage score greater than 50. So it's some similar data points you've heard from my colleagues. But ultimately, some systems-wide work we want to do with mathematics is start to build out a tier 2 MTSS tiered system for support for mathematics, which we don't currently have in as robust of a way as we do for literacy. So now's the time to start creating a system to support our mathematics learners in a similar way that we do for our readers. In English language arts, really the pattern we're trying to disrupt is writing in our male population. So we will explicitly teach and practice writing revolution strategies, explicitly teach appropriate writing strategies using a model, practice, reflect instructional cycle in our classes in a minimum once a week, leading to an increase in cognitive writing scale scores for boys from an average of, as a typo there, 1703 in 2025 to 1800 in 2026. as well as in general increase our males writing competence in all grades 7 through 12. So our boys do better. We want them to do better in writing. We want all of our students to improve in mathematics. And I'm actually quite happy to say that the attendance goal was a continuation of last year, and we exceeded our goal from last year. At this point last year, we had 133 students that missed 10 or more days of school by April. This year by April, we had 66. And I can speak to, not now, but another time, the things we've implemented to improve that data. Thank you.
So this is important so that you understand and appreciate why our principals are instructional leaders and how deeply they can speak to the data in their building, specifically to their building and their goals and their level of professional development. For the board again, and we talk about this in the fall, how do we decide how we use our resources and make decisions? The continuous improvement plans that we ask that you approve this evening are really critical piece in terms of consideration and how we use resources across the district. Not to step on your toes, gentlemen, just this is such an important time. So we need a motion.
All right, and Jen, did you have anything more to say?
Nope, that's it. Thanks, everybody.
All right, well, thank you to all the principals for the work you did just to arrive at your goals. Crunching that data, thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the continuous improvement plan?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Anna?
Yep.
It was Anna.
Thank you, Anna. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right, thank you very much for that approval. Now we are going to have a presentation again by the elementary school principals about technology use in our schools. It sounds like
What do we? Maybe I do numbers.
The board asked last time to have a presentation.
So should we preface that, like, yeah, they'll preface why we're doing this? Okay.
They're really sketchy.
Well, they did tell me to open it, so. Okay, I think there's a presentation that we're popping up. Okay, Raph has got that. So I'm Lori Beeland. I'm the assistant principal at Woodstock Elementary School. They thought it was really clever to put the person that never speaks at these up in the front to start speaking about this, so you're welcome. We appreciate the conversation that was opened up at the last board meeting around some concerns around our tech use in our buildings for students, and appreciate how much that has opened up the conversations that we're having at our schools and how to best support students with that tech usage. Our goal tonight, our purpose tonight is just to present you with what we currently use for student-facing tech with it across the board in our district. So it'll be me and the admin team presenting there is the next slide, presenting across the board in subjects around what we use K through 6 in our schools for tech. So I'll be starting with our literacy the subject of literacy, and that can be our next slide. Yeah. So my intention, I'm going to run through what these programs are briefly and how they might be implemented or how they might be used by students throughout the grade levels. So the first one is our Alexia program, starting typically in 1st grade among the district and going through 6th grade, and how it's a supplemental computer-based reading program providing personalized learning paths that automatically adapt to student performance. This may be used in a variety of ways.
with the main purpose to add additional reading time during non-instructional times, which we'll go over later on in the presentation of some some instructional purposeful instruction that we're required to teach for math and literacy and so on. So teachers, after teacher instruction during intervention, so teachers can help small groups or individuals who need extra practice or progress monitoring time. It can be used during transition times when students have finished their work and have time before the next subject or activity. Or it can be used to practice with students who are taking it home or using it at home with parents. So they can understand how to log on and get in, and then practice during breaks, for, especially summer breaks, to prevent some regression of skills. Our students use or have access to Epic, which is a library of books that can be read on screen or read to students, so they can build background knowledge by accessing content-specific books and support reading fluency and build vocabulary. Teachers can use it to print books for students to access reading at their level. They can use it after work is completed for extra practice or access to content-specific material, getting them more background knowledge or more research for their EL program. It can read aloud to students for more content knowledge or EL curriculum and related writing assignments. We have keyboarding without tears. This is a digital curriculum designed to teach typing, computer readiness, and digital citizenship through engaging game-based activities. It can begin in second grade, typically used in small blocks of time, which is after work is completed, or it has been practiced in our STEM classes to support students building their typing skills. And then finally, we have Google Docs, which has begun in some of our schools in second grade, towards the later part of second grade, to start using their typing skills to put into final drafts of their assignments, and building presentations to present their knowledge of what they've learned in their EL program. And next is math. That's me. I'm Shana Kalnitsky, the Director of Student Support Services, and I'm going to summarize the three main tools that we use in mathematics. The first is Imagine Learning, and that's a standards aligned activities. They're standard aligned activities that are embedded in the Imagine Learning math program that we adopted in the district. And it provides additional opportunities for procedural fluency using precise math language and specific models that are part of the instruction in the classroom. The second tool is Dreambox, owned by Discovery Education. It's an adaptive web-based learning platform for students in grades K through 8. And it was designed not only to adjust the difficulty level of questions, but also track student strategies and decision-making to help guide what content they would be offered and what skill level. That was adopted during a multi-year project working with a district math coach and specialist, Kathy Ernst. And for Dreambox, it has several peer-reviewed research studies. One of the most prominent is through Harvard Center for Educational Policy Research, and from ESSA, which is Every Student Succeeds Act. That's a term you'll hear often with academic standards. It got the highest tier of validity from the What Works Clearinghouse with their strong rating. IXL is the third tool. It's owned by IXL. They also manage ABCA, education.com, the Rosetta Stone. And IXL is a little different. Rather than adaptive, it's a practice-based digital learning platform. And it was designed for skill alignment and skills mapping. And one of the prominent pieces of peer-reviewed research that supports IXL was done at Johns Hopkins University, and it also achieved the strong evidence rating from ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act. So how are we using these tools? Like the other tools that you will hear about or have heard about already, they're supplementary. These are not now, nor would they ever be considered to be a replacement for our very skilled and knowledgeable educators. These tools work in concert with classroom instruction. And they have the ability for teachers to specify exactly what content a student might be exposed to. That could be extra practice for some students, a different access level of the skills, but it could also be an extension for some students who might want additional or more complicated customized content. Dreambox and IXL are also very unique that they offer very powerful data dashboards that they can provide important information to teachers looking to see, when I put this data against other things that I'm seeing in and out of the classroom, what picture does that paint for my student of what they might need or might not need? And the last thing is that both tools are often requested by families and caregivers so that they can be accessed at home, on the weekends, over vacation, as an activity to do at home. And like everything else that we're doing, they're constantly reviewed. And because of the request in the recent conversation, we will continue to look at those tools more in depth so we can provide more information to the people who've asked those questions.
I'm speaking to science. In STEM and science classes, students will access the following programs. In some classrooms, they will access Scratch Junior. Scratch is a free block-based programming app designed for children ages 5 to 7 to create their own interactive stories and games. It was developed by MIT and Tufts University and uses pictorial puzzle piece blocks to teach basic coding and computational thinking, helping kids learn to solve problems and express themselves creatively. Create a Code and Make Code are other programs that are used and are similar platforms for coding and computational thinking in grades 2 to 6. Code.org is a computer science curriculum with coding puzzles embedded in lessons and labs. WeVideo is an online video editing platform that allows users to create, edit, and share videos. It's well designed for beginners because it features intuitive drag and drop tools, stock media, green screen capabilities, and screen recording. Tinkercad is a 3D modeling and design tool that's used by students. Canva is a web-based graphic design platform that allows users to create presentations, videos, documents, and other visual content using simple drag and drop interfaces.
I think I'm next. I cannot see them. Amanda Redding. I'm talking about assessment. We have 2 computer-based assessments that we use. So we use STAR Reading and Math. Those are district universal screeners. We do them beginning in 3rd grade. We do them fall, winter, and spring. They're adaptive assessments on the computer. And basically they help teachers see what each student knows in a quick way and what they're ready to learn next. And then good old Cognia. We do Cognia reading, math, science. These are Vermont's statewide tests. We start them in 3rd grade and 5th grade for science, and then again later. These are also computer-based tests, and for Cognia, it measures how well the students are meeting Vermont state learning standards compared to other students across the state. The vignettes on this page are further examples of some of the things that the speakers have brought up, but you can see there's a really wide variety of how much time and how much usage a teacher may or may not give the tool, because it's just one option that might complement what's happening in the classroom. So as I mentioned with Dreambox, it's highly customizable. You can align it to the specific lesson that you did in class or a student might have missed because they left early and the teacher needs to review a lesson and then, can provide one extra piece of practice. And there are other times when we're not using these tools because there are many actual human-based math games that are embedded in the curriculum. There are books to read, and we have very skilled coordinators for the literacy and the mathematics who are working next to all of our teachers in classrooms across the district on very valuable learning activities.
And as we were creating this slideshow presentation for you all, we were trying to do our very best job to represent what is actually happening this year in our elementary schools And it became really clear very fast that the amount of time that these programs were used varied a lot depending on the classroom and the student needs in the classroom. You know, coming from at Barnard Academy, we have multi-grade classrooms. We have sometimes, you know, there's a lot of pieces that we couldn't just say there's this amount of time for this program at this grade level. But what we found was true across the board is that some programs are being used for the purpose of practicing, like practicing the foundational skills, and some programs are using for creation, like the STEM tools that are for creating an innovative project. So there was two different categories. And also that there was a flexibility within the supplemental use for all of these tools of like, where is the need, what's the purpose of it, and a teacher being able to make that decision if it's needed or not. In a lot of cases, it's not needed at all. And in some cases, it was very purposeful that this is the reason why we're using it. And so we just wanted to point that out, that the variable use of time could be from 0 to like something very intentional. And in different, I also want to say, like, we talked a lot about the whole classroom use versus a small group intervention or a one-on-one use or an at-home use, which, as you can see, is variable. To be able to represent that, we did our very best job to share with you.
And what isn't variable is our expectations around the time use in the classroom, specifically for literacy and math, which we have created documents for minute by minute use of teacher time. And so the use of technology is never substituting for the core instruction that we expect. And you can see that this is our instructional timeframes for math. And on the next slide, you can see our instructional timeframes for literacy. We have those built out grades K to 6. And that is the end of our presentation.
All right, I'll take questions from the board.
I have a question on the instructional timeframes for literacy. I guess it says, if I'm looking at kindergarten and first grade, so is this like a maximum per day? I mean, 140 minutes, 5 days a week. That's what, 2 hours and 20 minutes? What does that mean?
That's like the minimum per day. They don't sit there for straight, but through the whole day, that's how much instructional time would be for literacy.
Oh, not for the screen.
Right. Oh, no. That's it's the opposite. So that would be like, yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah, these instructional timeframes are not screen times. I think
No screen.
Yeah.
Meaning it's what we have to work around. Well, it's what teachers would be looking at.
Anybody else on the board?
Are there questions on the?
I don't see anybody's hand up. Session moving.
Sure.
Go ahead, Seth.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say I appreciate the work you've done as a student that's been, I don't know, I come from California school where I believe I was getting my first Chromebook, I don't know, first grade, and then I got like my first very own Chromebook third grade. I thought I've turned out all right. We want to debate that, we'll do that another time. But I've used these programs such as Dreambox. My district was more like iReady, but I'm familiar with all these programs. And yeah, there's a lot of I don't know, what fluff that adds to it. There's a lot of it's what keeps you engaged. Like, I know as a student, as a third grader, you hand me a paper with a bunch of math on it, I'm not gonna be less inclined to do it than if you hand me a interactive game. And at the end of the day, if we're doing the same amount of learning, a win's a win. And it's good to see us effectively using technology. And we live in the 21st century, and unfortunately, this is the reality we're gonna have to face. We can try to walk away from the problem as much as we can, but at the end of the day, this is gonna be our careers and goals. It's gonna be run through many parts of it are gonna be run through a screen, unfortunately. And we could take the toy away from the child, or we can teach them how to use it effectively.
Thank you. Look, Matt, do you want to go?
I thought Corinne had her hand up before me.
I don't, oh, there it is, just popped up.
Yeah. I can speak first. I think that this is really great to see. And one thing that came up for me is that it could be really instructive, I think, for technology used to be a specific focus for the leadership teams or teachers to be checking in with one another over time, to see, what works, what doesn't work, and sort of strategies around, sort of like what are the pitfalls. I think that one of the concerns, as parents, is often not necessarily the intentional use of these programs that have been vetted, but what happens beyond that between the student and their screen when it's between classes or whatever it is. And that could be it would be interesting to hear from teachers about their experiences around that. In elementary school, maybe specifically, but really any grade. And just kind of keep exploring, even if the intention is that, we're using this in good ways to support education, what are the other things that are going on? And are there ways that we can be mitigating any sort of downsides?
All right, Matt, and then Lisa.
Sure. So I guess I wanted to first make the point that last month, I believe the new procedures that were presented to us around the IT policy would have removed the one-to-one devices in kindergarten, but this presentation showed the certain apps that are being used on those devices. Is that correct? That this is kind of the today's picture, but I guess starting next year we wouldn't have iPads in kindergarten?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then my next question is just around the vetting of the apps that are used. I know that this presentation is showing the condoned, like the apps that you allow. But like, what is there to prevent a teacher from finding an app that they like and using it the next day? I had a conversation with a teacher today who liked Grapho games and said it's the best app ever for teaching phonics. And so, like, yeah, what vetting is in place so that an app that hasn't been approved by the administration or the principals would be prevented from just, being handed to a child in a classroom? That's my question.
Thank you. Great question, Matt.
Yeah, I can answer that. It's a great question. There's a couple different things that we do. So the first level is that in order for an app to be approved, it has to have a signed student data privacy agreement. Vermont is part of a national organization that uses these student data privacy agreements, and we partner with an organization out of Massachusetts called TEC. And so all of the apps that access student data that have any of that protected data has to have a signed student data privacy agreement. So that's the first first step in that. It is possible that an app may not require or use student data. And in that case, it would be a curricular decision. And that's where the role of our coordinators and our curriculum folks help to try to shape that and guide that. Could a teacher, use something else? Like if it didn't meet any of those requirements, yes. We have structures in place so that if it's going to attach or it's going to gather any data, then it has to be approved. So we have ways of blocking apps that would require signing with our Google accounts.
Lisa?
So I have a question regarding the literacy. It says in kindergarten, grade 1, you get 15 minutes daily, and that goes across the board. So my question is that total literacy time that you spend on handwriting is just 15 minutes a day? Because I'm noticing that a lot of kids are not able to write clearly. I was in a meeting today where it was actually brought up that the majority of the children in this class have a very hard time with writing, handwriting. And that needs to be an essential part of their education. There's going to be technology throughout their life, but they're also going to be able to, they need to be able to write effectively as an adult in any forum, whether it's 20 years, 30 years, they're going to need to be able to write. So my question is when you say 15 minutes daily, is that all that is spent on handwriting throughout the educational day?
I'll take a first stab at answering that, but Julie Brown is also on this call. That is when we do direct, explicit instruction about handwriting. That does not mean handwriting doesn't happen throughout the rest of the day. We heard the same exact thing that you saw from our educators. And so we strategically put direct explicit instruction following a program back into our classes so that students were learning how to handwrite clearly. And it's also really important because there's been a link between how well students can read and their ability, like the ability to write connects to how well they can read. So it is strategically placed in there for that time. Julie, did you want to add anything?
We're yes, it's the time used for explicitly teaching these skills. We're just a few years into implementing that district-wide, and we are going to be advancing cursive beyond currently in grades 3 and 4 and progressing it to grades 5 and 6 next year. And our students are very proud of their handwriting and showing a lot of progress. So I'm really excited for our students to reach middle and high school with strong handwriting skills.
I'm just going to say that I'm concerned about the limited amount of time. I don't think 15 minutes a day to really hone in on a skill such as handwriting is enough. There needs to be more. That needs to be increased.
Go ahead, Julie.
So that time, thank you for that. And we can continue to look at it. The times were set based on our best understanding of research for instruction. That's not to say intentional practice isn't happening outside of that time, but smaller chunks scaffolded across the school day, across the weeks and months and years fits with our current curriculum and our understanding. But so thank you, and we'll continue to look at that.
Thank you.
Ryan?
Yes, thank you. My overall question, and sorry about my voice, I just got out of a baseball game, and I'm the cheerleader. So, my basic question is, I'm hoping, do we have studies and records that show whatever we implement with the kids for electronic devices as tools or whatnot translates into better performance, understanding, and grades moving forward? As in, if they're in second grade and then when they hit third grade, they get to use a Chrome for, say math. Do we have studies showing that our students directly are benefiting from that device being offered as a tool, or what drives the decisions behind what we teach on paper and what we teach with devices.
You want Brad or Shannon?
I'll speak to one part of it that has a lot to do with me. So when we talk about, I believe we brought up Learning Ally tonight and an ebook application. I primarily focus working with students who are eligible for special education or have a disability. So for some of those students, opening up a typical book is not really accessible to them, because the print is either the wrong color or the page is the wrong color. The print is too small. There's too much print on a page. And having access to not only the supplemental pieces, but our math program or our literacy program on a device allows us to, on demand, make these resources accessible to students and be compliant with the federal guidelines for special education and for those with disabilities. So that's really key. And sometimes working on paper, you know, is not a good option. And I'm talking about these specific students. When we have kiddos who have fine motor challenges, and some of these students are scoring in less than the first percentile of fine motor proficiency, for them to write an essay, I mean, let's focus on, can they write a word? And we are looking at ways that we can sensibly and meaningfully give them the ability to have access to the same education as their non-disabled peers. And we need a piece of technology to do that. We're trying to be very thoughtful in the way that we do that. And, you know, the question I think was, how do we decide between a paper or a device? And I think that's a question that educators are grappling with on a day-to-day basis. Some of the tools are newer for us, so we're learning how to use them. I'll take the IM Math. It's a newly adopted program, and not all the digital tools are the way we would want to go, because there's so much benefit to rolling dice and, you know, playing with decks of cards and, you know, doing the math the old fashioned way, Candyland, Monopoly, etc. But there are times when the technology makes the learning more accessible, even to a typical learner. And instead of having to spend, you know, a lot of time for an educator to find just that right thing with the math lesson or the literacy lesson, you can click a few drop downs and boom, it has something that's, you know, custom tailored to that student.
So like, I just to kind of say, Ryan, to your specific question, we don't have specific data on that per se. I think what you're hearing from your principals tonight, as well as our directors, is that there's a balanced approach. There are individual students or situations where technology is used as a supplement. It's in addition to, it's not instead of a teaching. You see our timelines, our teachers' days, our students' days are packed with literacy, math, and other academics. There are times when there are transitions where this can be used as an add-on. We appreciate, and we've talked about this as a leadership team, this focus on technology usage in our building. It's an opportunity for having conversations. We agree there has to be a balance. This is a district that really focuses on, as you saw in the C3 presentation, students having opportunities to diverse ways to engage with material, whether it's foundational skills, whether it's with technology. And I appreciate, as well as the other directors, this is an important conversation, and I value our community and our board members bringing this to us. As you can see by Rath's presentation previously, we're looking at and ensuring that when technology used, it's a tool in addition to. And we will have that conversation. There are times where our teachers are saying it is a really important tool for our students. There are times when we have a lot of other tools that we can access.
I appreciate that. Shana, thank you for your response first and foremost. I always appreciate your thoroughness. And Also, Sherry, thank you for your feedback. Overall, in general, I understand we need a balance, especially in today's society and where we are with technology. I just hope we are implementing stuff and somehow monitoring that what we're implementing is actually beneficial to the students, and that is what tips the scale in this balance. Uh, I think our teachers and staff are the best in the state, if not further. I've got nothing but respect for them. They've been able to teach students for decades without this technology. We're all byproducts of said learning and teaching. So to keep piling on here and there when convenient or whatnot, technology, I just want to make sure it's for the kid and the student's best interest, first and foremost. That's all.
Thank you. Josh?
So I just want to quickly ask, when you were speaking about having increased handwriting and penmanship for third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, seeing some of the handwriting of the middle school students, they're behind on that. Are we going to do anything to try to catch them up so that their handwriting skills are better when they go into high school or forward into college or forward into adulthood?
That's a great question. At this point, I'm not aware of a particular handwriting program that's being applied at the middle school, but that's certainly something that we can discuss as a leadership team. Thank you.
Not to cut in, but I think Josh Sinkamani also addressed that earlier, specifically with the male students in that age group. So it seems like that might be aware and in the progress of addressing.
Annie, and then Sarit. Oh, Lila.
So I know, I think, was it last meeting we reviewed, that, I think Matt touched on this earlier, that we were kind of taking it, that screens used to be on the board for kindergarten and then now they no longer are. So I'm just curious why, like, what went into that decision for kindergarten and what brought the line up and why it maybe didn't go up further? And I don't know who the question is directed to, but I would just like a little bit of background as to, like, it seems like there was already one decision made and how that came about, what was looked at, and were there discussions as part of that to go further to like first or second grade? And I don't know who to answer.
I can try to answer that. So I think what I presented last meeting was really just a proposal. These are procedures. This is nothing that's set in stone. This is definitely a work in progress, and we want to have a dialogue around this. I think part of what we saw was that in conversations with our educators, our kindergarten teachers were feeling like the tools, for the majority of them, the tools were not really something that they were relying on a heavy level, and that we could sit. There was strong agreement in moving that. When we got into first and second grade, it was interesting amongst classroom teachers who we surveyed, it was split 50-50. And 50% saying that they felt like it was an important part of their teaching, 50% said that they felt like it would be good to move away from those pieces. So part of that was at that time just feeling like, I think there is a really valuable discussion around what is the right level and what grades are those at. At least at the last board meeting, like in my mind, the data isn't conclusive enough, and then we need to do some work and have some conversations with our educators before moving forward. So that was the thought process.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Sarit?
Hi, everyone. I'm really glad that we're having these conversations at the board level. Raf, I want to thank you as well, being on the policy committee and seeing you in work and all of our long, in-depth conversations. Thank you. And I just want to speak up because I want to say that I just like the district to consider that IXL and Google are being sued right now. There's a website called edtech.law. And Google and IXL are examples of cases of when they're being sued for the violation of student privacy laws. Google is being sued for harm to children. These lawsuits are publicly available. And, you know, this is a watershed moment. This is a worldwide, nationwide, statewide, district-wide conversation that's overdue, and it's happening. And I just wanted to plant that seed. There's lawsuits and they're being prosecuted and they're not going away. Thank you.
Seth.
Well, first of all, thanks to the principals and to Ralph for putting together the presentation. It's interesting. I feel like we started with the wrong question. We started with what are we doing, which was helpful to know because I didn't know. But I feel like the better question is kind of what I was discussing with you today. Is like why do we need tech? It's like you talked about like kind of the North Star, the student portrait. Jennifer talked about the CIP plans. It's like, what are we trying to do with the school district and how can technology help us get there? I feel like that's the right frame for this conversation. And I feel like we backed our way into that eventually. But I feel like we need to think of it in those terms. My sense is there's a lot of great tools coming on the market, and in theory, they can help supplement education. But we're really learning more about the effectiveness of these tools on a daily basis. And there's some important questions, you know, being raised. I think, John and Blake, you know, had some good questions like, why are these devices being used? You know, what is the purpose? I think those are really good ones, and because I've seen a discrepancy a little bit between what's been talked about today where, you know, as a parent, I've seen a little bit of a discrepancy. It's like, this is a supplemental tool, you know, and that sounds great in practice, but I'm not sure that's always the actual what's being used in the real world. And I think we should think about, this should be the beginning of a conversation where we explore some kind of policy that could provide some more guardrails on how, why, and when technology is used, and potentially set some criteria for what type of technology is used. I think I was interested to read about LAUSD coming out with, you know, they expanded the use of technology during COVID, and now they're limiting screen time. You know, I think some ban on some of the lower level yeah, I quietly grumbled that my kindergartner was getting an iPad. And I've been quietly complaining that like they were put in front of a television and read a story to them on a VCR during lunchtime and thinking like, what's going on here? And so I think you're gonna hear that kind of story bubbling up, and there's a lot of really good intentions and everybody's trying to do the right thing. But I think we need to like investigate and figure out what is the best practice and how can we, and what is the best practice for our district too? What should be the best practice for our district? So I'm all about learning, spending more time on this and trying to create some thoughtful guidance that supports us growing as a district and kind of tries to mitigate some of the potential harms that technology can provide. So I would encourage maybe even like a working group on this, or maybe this is something that takes over in the policy group. But you know, it's going to be an ongoing conversation for years to come.
Well, the policy committee of which I'm on, had a discussion about this as well. And we did discuss having a working group that would include educators and people from the communities to take the sort of the metacognition level to look at what's really going on and then, you know, address it. So I think that will be coming as we're getting ready to end school for the summer and soon, and we don't work in July typically, but
The pay's so good.
it is great and richer every day. But
So, yeah, we have a couple more
we
presentations.
do.
That I know Corinne and Emily will also.
Yeah, so pass it over to Corinne.
Yeah, just really briefly, I mean, it sort of echoes a little bit what I said before, but putting a finer point on the having this working group is a great idea, because I think that like one of the worries as parents, and one of the places where I feel like, you know, sort of the risks or the potential harms can come in is not necessarily about, I mean, it could be, are these educational programs, you know, working to supplement to support education? That's one question. But the other is, what is the presence of, you know, one-to-one, you know, computers, laptops in especially younger classrooms doing to the environment there, and sort of, you know, again, sort of between instructional times? Because, you know, as parents, obviously one of the greatest struggles is, you know, if your kid's not involved in an activity, are they always going to go to the computer and have a screen to keep them occupied? And so if that's happening in school as well, it's just reinforcing that sort of problematic behavior. So looking at that, kind of just like how the access to that happens in the school, I think is an important part of that.
Elliot?
Yeah, hi. So I just wanted to mention, and Carrie brought it up. I was going to mention it when I got to my report, but yeah, we are forming a working group around this. We've had several discussions so far. I mean, this is especially in the context of, it was sort of mentioned earlier, there's legislation that's pending with two bills, one having to do with opting out of technology, ed tech, and the other one having to do with the vetting of the different programs. So we would like to, you know, get this working group together. We want to also, you know, get input, but we also want to have evidence-based resources that we can follow as well. So anyway, so more to be discussed, and I will talk a little bit more about this because we have a policy that tonight that directly applies to this that we're going to vote on tonight anyway.
Anna? We can't hear you, Anna. It's- Great, when it works.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks for your patience. I want to start out by saying that several times when I've asked my 5-year-old what his favorite part of his day at school was, he says that it's been the time that he's on technology. And what a heartbreaking response that is to hear, despite it maybe having some sort of educational benefit in some way. And what an unfortunate loss from, you know, again, having the interfacing with peers and nature and staff. And I also want to echo what Sarit had mentioned around privacy concerns with increased surveillance and increased technological infiltration. I'd be remiss to say that I want my kid having more, you know, screen time where maybe there's a camera built into the device that can, you know, capture irises and facial recognition. And then so my final thought, which I'll throw out, is maybe having the option for parents to choose to have their child opt out. So my own child is opted out of any digital capturing of his face. Actually, both of my children are given the option to opt out of, you know, being photographed during field trips and around schools. And so I wonder if there's a space there we can offer parents to also opt out of, you know, a certain limitation of time or types of devices that our children are exposed to, especially, in my opinion, in the younger years. So thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other board comments? All right, well, thank you very much to again, the principals and Raf and all those who contributed. It's a conversation that will continue, and when we form that group, we will definitely send it out through the elementary school channels, the town listservs, as we do try to publicize for people to come to those kinds of meetings because they can really focus in. All right, we now have the elementary Spanish education proposal for 26 and 27. Here we go.
This is the best one. I already have it. It's really fast.
Devin Larkman, principal at Prosper Valley, and I'm Maggie Mills, principal at Emsec Elementary. We worked on this presentation with Mary Guggenberger, the principal at Killington. We got input from the other elementary principals, and we got input from Elaine Lively, who is, I think, the veteran senior world language guru of our district at this point. We're here to just share an update on what's been happening with world language at the elementary level for the past several years and some challenges we're facing and present a possible way forward.
Who's our clicker? All right, just want to know who to wink at. So back in 2022, to be able to take a look at what was happening in our district and what we would like to happen in regards to getting our kids prepared for graduation. Based off the World Language Department recommendations, there was a 4th through 6th grade focus on Spanish. From there, the K through 3 based focus was based off parent input. And then the below 2 bullets were what was proposed. Grades K through 3, 2 times a week for 30 minutes. And grades 4 through 6, 3 times a week for 45 minutes. For the sake of this presentation, you might see that written as 2 times 30 or 3 times 45 as we look at what's happening and what has happened.
Right. Currently, we are having challenges with filling our Spanish teaching positions. We are intended to have 3 full-time Spanish teaching positions at the elementary level. And for the past 3 years, we have been unable to fill all 3 positions. This is leading to some inconsistency for our students. This year, students at my school have no Spanish instruction. Last year, that was true at Devon School and at Barnard Academy. The year prior to that, there were students getting less than the desired amount of minutes for Spanish at several of the elementary schools due to shortages of staffing. We're finding that our needs for world language instruction look different at different schools depending on configurations. At West, we have several classes of each grade level, so we need a Spanish teacher who can teach 2 sections of kindergarten, 2 sections of 1st grade. At Barnard Academy, they have multi-grade classes, so how they use Spanish looks different depending on their schedule. Same thing at Radin, you've got multi-grade classes, so we have some different needs across our schools. Currently, we have 2 full-time openings for next year. We have 1 Spanish teacher in our district who is currently returning and 2 openings for next year. And we find ourselves, when we're posting our Spanish positions, that we end up competing with one another for the teachers that we hire. We'll have a teacher that will interview for the Prosper job, for the West job, and also for an opening at the middle school, high school. And then we're all sort of trying to convince one person to come to our school because the pool of Spanish teachers in this area and this region is somewhat limited.
So the very first year going into a school year after the original proposal, you'll see this is the table structured for the next couple slides. You'll see the schools on the left, what was budgeted for FTEs in the middle column. Again, that was what was proposed, that was the goal for that school year. And then to the right is what was actually able to happen. So you'll notice that that very first year was the first, and as you'll see throughout the slides, the only year that we were able to fulfill what was proposed for grades K through 3 and grades 4 through 6.
So the next year, there was an open position at the middle school. And so the Killington Elementary Spanish teacher was shared with the middle school instead of shared with Reading Elementary. Woodstock Elementary School and Reading Elementary ended up sharing that year. And so both schools had less Spanish than was intended.
Last school year, Barnard and Prosper Valley would share a 1.0 FTE. We were unable to fill that position that was posted throughout the whole year, which meant that our 2 schools, K through 6 at Barnard and 5th and 6th grade at Prosper Valley, went without Spanish for the whole school year.
This year, as I mentioned before, Barnard Academy and Prosper Valley are sharing a Spanish teacher, so their students are able to have Spanish instruction. Killington Elementary, Reading Elementary are sharing a Spanish teacher.
Woodstock Elementary School has been unable to find a qualified teacher this year. We have been able to work with Sherry and Jim to use some of the funds that would have gone to that Spanish teacher to increase some of the time for art and music in our school. We've used some of the time for increased social emotional learning. We've used some of the time in the schedule where Spanish would be for some health lessons and some other enrichment opportunities, but we have not had Spanish.
So as the leadership team, trying to come up with some next step forward, how we can try to keep language around in our elementary grade levels, and also really try to make sure that that experience is still equal across the district. Due to the inconsistencies that we just talked about, other than this very first school year that this was proposed, not one school year since have we been able to hire the correct number of people to fulfill those, let alone have equal experience and access for students across our district. So our goal is to create consistent opportunities that we hopefully will be able to keep around and fill positions for, offering Spanish 3 times a week for 45 minutes for 5th and 6th grade across the district. Note that this would be taking out kindergarten through 4 Spanish throughout the district, as this has not been something we've been able to consistently fill. So what we need to be able to make that happen, that affects 3 schools, Barnard K through 6, Killington K through 6, and Prosper Valley 5th and 6th grade. We would need, the goal would be to get a 1.0 FTE, is what we often try to do, but 0.5 at Killington, 0.5 at Barnard, and 0.6 at Prosper Valley. So if you don't know, Prosper Valley houses most of our 5th and 6th graders at 107 students this year, so we need a little bit more in order to fulfill the needs there. I'll just point out that one of the things, as often in a lot of unified arts roles in our district, that's hard to fill is getting folks who want to share between buildings. So that has been definitely a struggle. We've found some really great candidates in the past. We've been in some amazing interviews, and when they ask questions about shared positions, and we are very real with them, as we are with any candidate, we lose those candidates. Sometimes right within our district to a middle school, high school, sometimes in a district over that has a bigger capacity to take 1.0s. So what that would look like is 2.5 days Killington, 2.5 days Barnard, and 3 full days at Prosper Valley. Yeah.
Yep. So that explains out what it would look like. If we were to go to a 5-6 model, where 5th and 6th grade were the focus of our elementary Spanish program, we'd be able to use the staff person we currently have, and hopefully hire another one to focus on those 2 grade levels leading into the middle school setting. We've heard tonight that there's some really robust opportunities for our students in Spanish as they go into the middle and high school, and we'd be able to kind of prime students by that, by focusing on those grade levels. The schedules at 5th and 6th grade don't have quite the same length of time required for literacy, so there's a little bit more flexibility in the 5th and 6th grade schedule to allow for Spanish. This would create more equal opportunities across our elementary schools, so that students in Barnard and students from Woodstock, students from Reading, students from Water, Barnard, all the towns are getting a similar experience, because we'd be able to hit 5th and 6th graders across the district. And we can then allocate the Spanish positions that were budgeted for K4 to other enrichment opportunities, as I described what we did at West this year.
Yeah, so as always, with any unfilled position, leaders are often put in a position to figure out how we use, how we create schedules with things that we need that we don't have, how we reallocate time and resources to be able to keep enriching opportunities like what's been able to happen at West this year. What we're thinking about here is really thinking how we might be able to use the Spanish teacher that we still have in our elementary schools, keep her around and put her energy and a focus in a way that we can keep more consistent for students across the district.
Okay.
And last thing I'll say is that because we're often in a position when principals are creating schedules, which is about this time of year, come back from spring break, we are often double the amount of what we need to be doing to figure out when we're scheduling, we're creating 2 different schedules. What does one look like if we are able to hire a Spanish teacher? And what does it look like if we are not? Which can drastically, 3 days of Spanish can change a schedule a lot. So lots of light work.
Questions? On?
I don't have a question per se, but I have a couple of thoughts I'd like to share with everyone. Um, so keep in mind that we're always going to have open positions. This has been a struggle that all districts have had, we have experienced. Um, I want to point out that uh, for a good over a year, we had no social emotional learning instruction at or support at Reading Elementary. Due to this very same reason, right? Finding folks who want to share between campuses, which I completely understand. At no point did we ever discuss removing SEL support from all campus schools, specifically at the elementary schools. The community was continuously told, yes, it is a fully funded position. We're having a hard time hiring for that. And that was completely appropriate. So I would like to say that this should be a similar situation. Unfortunately, we aim for equity and we can't always reach it. I would also like to point out that with all of the adjustments coming down from the state, which we still don't quite understand, we know that there will be funding cuts coming up. And if I can bring us all back to those that were on the board, recently when we discussed cutting unified arts, the severe outrage that we got from our community. And so I think that we need to be really careful about this and remember that all of our students deserve to be stood up for. And just because we can't fill all of our positions at all of our campuses doesn't mean that we should remove all of those positions at all of the campuses because of hiring issues, which we're going to continue to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Corinne.
I think that in this case, what has been identified is a specific issue that has been consistent over the years. And the solution seems to both address the sort of continuing problem or sort of acknowledge the continuing problem and create a different way of offering a different schedule for offering Spanish language to all of our students that makes the best use of our resources.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll just jump in since I made a similar comment at the last board meeting that the consistency and the quality of the program, it's been hard to deliver a really good product. And I'm going to date myself because I think 12 years ago when my wife was on the school board at Wes and we tried to make changes to the language program, there was a lot of pushback, but the issues were the same, that we were having such a hard time filling the positions. And we got really in depth about the quality, like how many times a week and are they learning? Is it enough minutes during the day? And are they going to be taking time off over the summer? And what I experienced with my children is that there is a lot of learning loss at that younger age, that we're not truly teaching, very, very young children to be bilingual. We're just starting to introduce language, which we all want, but not at the level that they really excel. But we have a wonderful language program when you get to seventh, eighth, and high school. And my daughter was seal of biliteracy and took AP Spanish and did the Costa Rica and the Madrid trip. So it's a great program, but you can get there, I believe, starting in the fifth, sixth grade. So I support this proposal. and just thought I would share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara.
I also support this proposal. I think we should concentrate on what we can do well rather than just do something haphazardly that if we don't have any data to suggest that it's working, then we should do something else. My question is, do we have any opportunities to either use technology or volunteers in the community who aren't necessarily licensed as teachers, but in some kind of way to facilitate conversations between students and Spanish speakers, so that instead of trying to find somebody who can speak Spanish and is a certified teacher, we can find some other more creative way to get Spanish instruction for the students.
That's a good thought. Anybody else? All right, now do you need a vote on this or is it?
Oh, this is the direction we'd like to go in.
Yeah,
Honestly, we are now really at the end of hiring season. So I'm not optimistic we'll be able to fill these positions. And our principals need to plan their schedule. So we are May 4th. So I think we've done everything we can. We will keep those positions open. Nothing is rift. So we'll continue to pursue that, but really understanding and supporting principals to move forward with a concentration of Spanish 3 times a week, 45 minutes in grades 5 and 6, so they can start building their schedule. And we will post and we'll keep looking, it's not forever, again, it's in the budget. So I think that, we didn't want to do anything this different from what we've had planned without board input and consideration to see the challenge these principals are in. They've been trying really hard. And if you look at over the last 3 years, how inconsistent it's been, and again, in consultation with Elaine, who's taught elementary and now secondary Spanish, we want a solid program. I think as Matt alluded to, Laura, having a solid 5th and 6th grade program that will then allow all students to enter 7th grade, having the same experience is really critical. And that was the original decision with our Articles of Agreement. We want to make sure that students have similar experiences so that when they begin in 7th grade, they can be supported.
I'm sure someone has thought of this and there's some reason it didn't work, but I just thought I'd ask. Is there a reason not to do, have some elementary schools do French? I mean, I guess the reason would be so that everyone starts at the same level, but also half of my friends, we all took Spanish and half of my friends switched to French. So would half of the people taking French not switch to Spanish? Does it have, a different developmental impact? I don't know.
It's finding teachers in general who want to teach elementary borderline. I'll defer to Carrie. She knows this much better than I do.
well, that's a big problem in the state of Vermont. It's a big problem across the country. People who speak 2 languages don't necessarily aspire to be teachers. Elaine, I'll let Elaine speak to that.
No kid, let's say.
I just have to say, I'm thrilled to report that last year we have 17 students who have signed up for AP Spanish, which is, I think, larger than we can host. And we have 33 students who've signed up for advanced topics in Spanish. We actually have to have 2 sections.
It's great.
That's not true.
I just want to put out one key difference with these 2 models is that if nothing changes, right now we have 2 positions to fill to try to get equal access across the district. If we were to accept this model, the next step would be for us to talk to our current Spanish teacher about what is then available in this new model and possibly only have 1 position to fill to be able to have equal access for the students that we're choosing to provide Spanish to.
Well, I think you have the support of the board. I see 2 more hands. I'm gonna call on Katie first, then Anna.
Just so I understand, are we voting for them to accept this, for you guys to use this model, or are you just informing us of what you're going to be doing?
I think, Katie, we're in a position where we really, we don't have an option. We've opened the position for a year. We don't want to make the ship without the board's awareness, but we really we really are not in a position to offer the current model as was stated, and so we don't want to misrepresent. And part of the Articles of Agreement is every school has the same opportunities, especially around unified arts. Reading had a significant challenge filling that counseling position. Again, we tried really hard, but we've had multiple years with Spanish. And we really feel like we need to do this, and so that students have equitable experiences across the district.
I just want to put my opinion out there. If we're not voting, we're just giving opinions on where we're going. I completely agree with what Anna said. I think that this is not something that's going to go away. We're always going to have open positions. There's not a speech pathologist at this school. There's not, we're moving people around all the time, and it becomes a recruiting issue, as Mr. Workman mentioned a minute ago as well. I do not support this. I think my daughter plays violin one time a week for 60 minutes. So 1 times 60. And is she gonna play for the Boston Pops? No. But does she get challenged? Does she enjoy it? Does she use a different part of her brain? My girls are in middle school now, and both are in Spanish. And because of COVID, had lots of different, some years they had it, some they didn't. My son has consistently had it all through elementary school. And I will say his appreciation and his understanding, is he fluent? No. But does he pick up on things with his sisters? I do see a big difference in his understanding and his ability to unofficially to perform with Spanish and enjoy it. And I think that's important and not worth forgetting as well.
Understood.
Given the proficiency of a number of students in the higher level grades taking AP classes and taking the AP, sitting for the AP test, I'm wondering if there's a space through C3 or another joint program where we could have high school students in those AP courses connecting with the younger students that are going to lose their or don't currently receive Spanish in a way that could be fostering to both older students and younger students.
I would also share that we've noticed in West, and I think in some of the other elementaries, an uptick in families that speak Spanish in our school community, and we've been talking as part of our vet team work about how to build community, sort of similar to what Amanda was saying about building community gathering around some of the different cultures we're experiencing in our school community. So certainly it would be very cool to have C3 be part of that as well.
Especially because the AP Spanish students are more qualified than most of the applicants that we get. I'm just gonna put it out there. I get applicants that say they took high school Spanish. So did I. I'm applying to be a Spanish teacher. We're so locked, Lila.
Annie. So I'm feeling extremely, I guess we're just talking about how we're feeling. I'm feeling extremely torn about this. I really am empathizing with what Katie and Anna was saying around, while I hear Sherry that it's, equity is part of the Articles of Agreement. If we hold that as the standard by which as the only thing we're trying to do, I think, we just continue to lower the bar. And I think I also would like to be against taking things away that I don't think we'll be able to add back. But at the same time, I also hear what Matt was saying in terms of the ability. I was awful at language. I was really, really bad at it. And I can't imagine, I started in 7th grade, but I would imagine that the ability of the younger, K through 3 or whatever it is to actually pick up the language in a meaningful way is probably very limited. And then also I deeply respect the opinion of our principals and what they think would work. So I guess we're just saying how we're feeling. I'm feeling very torn.
Anybody else? All right, well, I think that we'll move forward with the way you're planning to go and hope for the best in the hiring and to get some licensed people or close to licensed people.
License would be good.
Yeah.
License would be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now we have the district capital improvement plan led by Joe Regoli and Jim Fenn.
Jen Settle told you a couple hours ago that the AOE requires the CIP to be approved annually. They require this CIP to be approved annually also. Our CIP, or our capital improvements plan, is part of the requirements now for any school that wants to do a construction project. And we have a construction project that the voters approved. We need to update and adopt our new capital improvements plan. Joe and I work on this together. He does all the heavy lifting. I help compile it into a nice document. And this is our plan. This is version 2 of our plan, because version 1 had $13.9 million worth of repairs at the middle high school. This version had $900,000 of upgrades to things on this campus, $600,000 that we're spending this year just to keep the doors open. And the rest is greenhouses, upgrading the field hockey field, things like that, that will be complementary to the new building when it gets built. So they're not going to be thrown away. The capital improvements plan is a plan. It's casting quicksand. It changes the day after you adopt it, because we realize that, oh, some pipe is broken and we have to cancel that project in order to take care of this project. But what it does is it shows that you've intentionally looked at your facilities, looked at your major expenditures. One of the things that's in here that is newer to our plan is Rap had to put his 2 cents in, and it turned out to be almost $500,000 worth of technology that we have that we will need to replace in the next 5 years. We bought a lot of switches, we bought a lot of technology with ESSER funds that are all going to wear out and die in 3 to 5 years. And so as Joe and I we're working on this, Rap said, oh, what about me? We added a lot of technology, because we're talking about the switches. We've got probably $350,000 worth of switches in our buildings, and you've got hub sites and all these other things, and they're not cheap. And so they're now part of this plan also. Again, it's a plan. Every year, your B&G committee looks at the items scheduled for next year, and they work with Joe to make sure that these are still the priority for next year, and how much of it can we put into the budget. One of the focuses that we have on this is how can we make all these things come together without having any significant changes in the tax rate. And so we put them together, so we'd like them all done here. Then we realized, well, that's gonna add $500,000 to the budget, and we can't do that to the tax rate, so we reshuffle them around to keep the impact on the tax rate as close to zero as possible. So we put in projects after a bond is paid off, so that we follow prior debt instead of adding new debt on top of old debt. So this is our plan. It does need to be adopted by the board. Finance and Facilities, Finance Committee and B&G have both reviewed it and have recommended it. Matt or Katie, please speak up and share your thoughts, but it's something we need to adopt so that we can show AOE that we have it and that it's not a roadblock in moving forward with our construction project.
I'll just chime in quickly and just say that a lot of work has gone into this, and I really appreciate everything that Jim and Joe have done, and that the committee 100% supports what they are asking us to vote on tonight.
I would agree on behalf of the Finance Committee. If you get a chance to look through it, you'll see that each project has a justification and rationale and a prioritization, and it has flexibility. You can move projects around, but it keeps a record of what we think is important, what we think needs to be addressed. And I sort of can't imagine planning a capital budget without it. So I support it. Thank you.
I just have one question, please. First of all, I agree with everything that everybody said. Thank you for doing this. The debt service, you have a $3.4 million in 2028 for new building debt, which seems early to me. And I'm just kind of curious what you're thinking here.
I'm thinking that we had to put it somewhere. And that, if I recall, and I don't have that particular one up on my screen, but if I recall,
it's on page 10.
It's interest only in that year. And if we do a deferred, principal payment on our debt, we'll still have to make interest payments on the years that we're deferring.
This assumes there is a approval and go ahead in 27.
Absolutely.
Is what it is. So you're assuming that, and this is interest.
It is. And we had to make some assumptions. And we wanted to make positive assumptions. So yes, we did make those assumptions. I don't know if people can see that, it's kind of small. But it does reflect some interest payments for the first couple of years. And then keep in mind that the plan also is to use the locally raised funds to reduce the impact of the debt in the early years of principal payments. And that's why it doesn't jump from 4.5 million to 8 million, but it jumps up about $1 million as we try to, temper the, the impact on the tax rate.
So Jim, did you have anything else you wanted to highlight?
No, it's plan that you're familiar with, because this is the third or fourth year I've presented one. This is the third year you'll be adopting one, hopefully. And it's what it has gotten is more comprehensive, because we've included things that weren't in it before, such as the technology, because those are major infrastructure things that we need to plan on.
Okay.
So you need a motion?
Yep, do we have a motion to approve the plan?
I'll make a motion to approve the plan.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right, I think that I'd like to just make an adjustment in the agenda. Oh, Josh abstained, okay. Thank you. If we do have public comment now, and then we have the rest of our meeting, they don't have to be held hostage here if they're waiting to do. So if anyone would like to speak public comment, either here online or in the room, you're welcome to speak now. And it will be a strict 2 minutes. Please, go ahead.
I'll just make it brief. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the seriousness with which you treated the issue I brought up at the last meeting, the thoughtful comments from the board and the thorough presentation. I think the thing that Seth highlighted that still, to me, is something that is the next step here is we've covered the what today, but now it's the why, right? Why is this technology there, right? And I've heard about the ESA studies. Reading recovery is also getting the same weighting as dream boxes. So there's more to the data than just the ESA certifications. And I think it's going to be a long discussion because after the why, then it's going to get into how do we do this, right? For parents who are very concerned about this. So just to be clear, my son doesn't touch technology at home. And I'm very concerned that when he goes to school, that undermines my ability to parent him. And I don't know of any other product or anything that's going on in school that would do something similar to that. And so I would encourage the board to consider allowing parents that are concerned the ability to opt out. I mean, Anna mentioned that comment. I mean, it broke my heart, right? About her kindergartner going to school and saying they love the iPad. I've heard the same from my son. He doesn't say, I love learning math on the iPad. He doesn't say, I love doing something. He says, I love playing with the iPad, right? And I just don't want that to become a ritualized part of his life and create a reliance on it. So I would just encourage you that while you're considering this very thoughtfully, and everybody here is so thoughtful, and I appreciate that, I would just encourage you to allow parents the ability to let their kids do things, maybe we call it the old-fashioned way. Correct?
Thank you. Anybody else? Elisa?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to also make a comment about the use of technology. I'm so glad you're having this discussion, and I agree with all of the comments that every concerned parent has mentioned. I have all the same concerns. I also just wanted to add regarding the testing, the STAR and Cognate assessments that are all done online. I'm curious if this, I don't know when all of that was moved to online, but I'm curious if that has impacted test scores at all and if that has been looked at. And I also want to add that if you do create an opt-out policy for our district, that you also need to consider opting out for these online testing, which is many, many grueling hours online for the kids. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody in the room?
Do you need Elisa's last name and town for the record?
Yes.
Elisa Tarlow Woodstock.
Okay, thank you. All right, hearing no public comment, do we need a 5-minute break or do we want to just plow through? Plow through. All right, finance committee. Fruit snacks.
Finance
Oh my
committee.
God.
We had our meeting and I'm gonna spare you all the
Yeah.
details. There's
We're set. We're high performance athletes.
Oh my gosh.
This is why I come to these.
Thank you so much. High quality snacks. Okay, thank you. Finance. 5 donuts and 2 fruit snacks. All right. Okay, policy.
Oh, me, thank you. So we do have 4 policies. I'll try to be brief on them, but we do need to go through them. So the first one is for first reading is the one based on fingerprint based criminal history record information and how it's handling. Essentially, this is explains how the district requests, uses, protects, stores, and destroys fingerprint-based criminal background information, which is mandated by Vermont for basically part of the criminal record to do a criminal record check for volunteers, for employees, for others as well. So basically, this is something we've already been doing, but Raina tells me that they now require this as a policy, even though we basically have been doing it. I do want to mention that I need to have this sort of fast track because it needs to be adopted by July or we'll get penalties, and we just heard about it last month. So I would like to have someone make a motion to move it for a second read and also an adoption in June. Unless you have questions on it.
So you make a motion, Elliot?
I don't think I can make the motion.
Okay, somebody can make that at home.
I'll make a motion that the fingerprint-based criminal history record information checks policy be moved to a second reading and adoption at our next report.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Wait, can I just ask one question? Elliot?
Yeah.
And maybe I could read this, but if we have a vendor who's servicing school, do they have to come to Montpelier to do their fingerprinting, or is there a virtual kind of, if they're, say they're a virtual tutor from another part of this?
I do not know that. All I can tell you is that I don't think there's virtual anything with fingerprints. I think, as a matter of fact, it spells out that this has to be done in completely old-fashioned method that needs to be like on paper or whatever, and then destroyed by by shredding. So I don't think that's part of it, that there's a protocol on this, that it's very, very
Yeah,
protected.
I know it's out of our control. I'm just kind of curious. I read like if we were looking to get a Spanish teacher from another place and we were using a virtual tutor, for example, would that person have to get fingerprinted? Would they be able to, or would they be hindered by it doesn't matter. I'll look
Yeah,
it
I
up.
don't know. I would ask, I think Raina, and you have to be, as part of
We
the
don't have any
policy
control over
also,
it
you have to
anyway.
be trained for this, so, yeah. Okay,
It'd be good to know.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor of moving it to a second reading and also adoption, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right, thank you.
Okay, the next policy,
Pass.
also for a first reading, is it's D3, it's responsible computer network and internet use. This is actually a policy that we've had. It's an updated version, I think from 2024. And it is mostly the emphasis is online, sort of responsible digital citizenship, but a little more spelled out in terms of the legal requirements, just basically expectations, etc. That's one part of it. And since we've had this discussion with our group, we decided, even though it's not the intention of this policy particular, we added another part to the procedure, which is we added E, which is basically called it appropriate introduction and use of technology in elementary schools adjusted to current best practices. So basically, we are charging the administration with putting that procedure in place. And, as we said, the next step would be to have, even though it's not part of this policy per se, to have a working group. But anyway, we wanted to put that in there. So it is the starting the ball rolling by actually having that in there. So it is looking at the use of technology in general in elementary school. So, and I wanted to have this a motion to have a second read in this coming June, next month.
Seth, would you like to
Make a motion. Have a second read.
Second. Okay, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Or raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstaining?
My hand is going to be abstaining. I think that we should, if we can, pause to see where the working group lands over the summer. That might be a good opportunity. So I'm going to abstain on this one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Elliot, you can continue.
Okay, so we have for second reading, this is the cell phone and related technology policy. Remember, we have one. Basically, this is an update that was put out by the Agency of Education, and it is basically an expansion of what we have with a little more in terms of legality and implementation clarity. So it is basically, there's nothing that we have that this one doesn't have. This one is just a little more detailed. And this one also is consistent with Act 72, which goes into effect, well, it's from last year, but it goes into effect by July 1. So we wanted to have this one sort of ready to go by July, so I would like to have a third reading / adoption consideration for next month, for June.
Can we get a motion here?
So moved.
Thank you. And second? Second. Annie, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Lisa L is abstaining. All right, thank you very much.
Okay,
Go
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Ready for the last one? So for this is a third reading. This is the third time we brought this up. This is C28 transgender and gender expansive students. Just to remind everybody, this is from the VSBA, basically adopted from the Agency of Education. It basically goes over guidance, legal basis, definitions, privacy, student records, use of facilities, school activities, privacy accommodations for transgender and gender expansive students. And just to remind everybody, we also had this reviewed by the QSA, and they changed some language, which what they suggested and we adopted, and we had checked by our legal team as well. So, and again, this one is for moves to adopt.
I will make the motion, and I again, with gratitude and applause for including the QSA in this. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, John. All in favor, please raise your hand. Or say aye. Those opposed? Okay, Ryan and Josh have opposed.
Lisa.
And Lisa, and anyone abstaining.
Abstain.
All right, I think we have to do a roll call into this situation, so just, if you could put your voice on, or we'll just call the names who are here. Elliot.
Aye.
Bob.
Abstain.
Katie.
Aye.
Brian.
Lisa, can you mute your mic, please?
Party.
Brian. Brian, I need to hear your voice. Sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, he just went out. I think he was a no, but Corinne.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Anne. Aye. Anna.
Aye.
Josh.
Nay.
Lara.
Aye.
Lisa.
Nay.
Gina.
Aye.
Is Sarit still here? No, it's here. Yeah. Brian.
Oh, you didn't get Ian Carl, so you had.
No, I did.
No, you.
Oh, I didn't. Oh,
Annie.
okay.
Ian,
Anne.
and Ian.
Anne. Anne Carl. Oh, sorry, that is. I don't know. Anne Carl. Okay, John.
Aye.
Annie.
I, sorry.
Seth.
Don't go away. Aye.
Seth.
Aye.
Okay. All right, the ayes have passed it. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Policy Committee. Buildings and Grounds update.
With passing the 2027 capital improvement plan, Buildings and Ground will rest their case for the night.
Okay, thank you. Negotiations.
Negotiation, we've reached out to what union leadership
Yeah.
to begin negotiations with faculty and staff.
Okay. And I don't think we have any working groups update. We need to approve the minutes from April 6th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, second. All in favor, say aye. Or raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, we had a public comment, so we're all set there. Reflection.
It sure was a long meeting.
It's actually, sure, I thought it was gonna be. All right,
Thanks to everyone. I mean, lots of presentations, lots of good information.
yeah.
Did you go to by the grant shares approval from?
Oh, that's funny. The grant approval.
Skip.
New hires.
The-
So someone just do a motion.
Okay.
Can you explain that? Thank you, Jim.
Yes, you can speak right over that. What? No, it's true, we didn't do it over there, did not. Right, is there a motion to approve the new hires?
No.
No, so
Aye.
for us to be able to approve.
Oh, the grant, yeah, oh, yeah, the
Five.
signing,
Five.
yeah, sorry about that. It's all right, somehow I just, not over that,
We have
all right. Sherry, why don't you just explain what the
So
purpose of
we
that
are
is?
now in the heart of the hiring season, so that we have a candidate, at this point, we would have to wait till June for board approval. So asking that the board grant the chair and vice chair the opportunity to confirm a hire of any new faculty between now and our September board meeting.
I make the motion to allow the chair and vice chair to make decisions on new hires between now and the start of our next board meeting.
And I'll
Thank
second
you.
it.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, the ayes have it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
You can just shut yourself right down.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.